time to show. Step on up to the yellow brick road. Queens unite to let the whole world know. Yellow chicks here and we run this show. Welcome to the yellow brick road. Pro black women strong, watch us glow. Let's go. Educated black women lead the way. Embarrassing men in the funniest way. Cooking goofies every day, yeah, we serve that heat. Coming cousins in the chat, they can't be beat. The family is here, yeah, we deep, no doubt. When we speak, every goofy getting called out. Social issues discussed, we don't sugarcoat. It's that real black girl magic, better take note. Clap back season, keep receipts in hand. Queens hold the mic, we control this land. Welcome to the yellow brick road. All black women strong, watch us glow. Let's go. We laugh, we shine, we call it out every day. Embarrassing men in the funniest voices rise, we won't be denied. On this yellow brick road, we walk with pride. Sisters united, the crown won't slip. This is yellow chick, let's take the trip. Common cousins putting in work non-stop. Every goofy on the grill, better flip, better drop. Peeps gonna drop you if you act up. Gift go met, we the type to win the room, no regrets. Best moderators on the app, gonna keep shit in line. Keeping trolls in check, yeah, the family shine. Just through the baby chick mascot looking on. With the crew by your side, the vibe stays strong. We laugh, we roast, but the love still shows on this yellow brick road. Yeah, everybody knows women center pro black on a
Hello, as everybody comes in. Today is going to be less triggering. Today's going to be less triggering than Monday. Today we're going to do a lot of information, conversation, not so much triggering stuff, but I'm going to do some terminology, some tactics of answering why do women stay, cycle of abuse, power and control wheel, those kind of things. We may have I may or may not, depending on how it goes, may or may not even let men come up to answer. You do not need control to provide protection. We'll see how it goes. Oh, I'm glad. Bring it down. Today's not going to be horrible. I know Monday was rough. Today's not going to be that. I did miss your advertisement.
Well.
Hey, what's up?
I'm good.
I did miss your advertisement. What did you say?
I was basically saying, yeah, that for all of the women out there that need somebody who will happily read them bedtime stories of any anime or manga, I am there. I will do the voice acting, I will do the character progression, and I will not forget where we left off. You can read any book, and I promise you, I will make your life better. Anyway, am I supposed to be hearing the music when I'm on the panel?
The music is done, so you won't hear it right now.
Okay.
Oh yeah, the baby. I had planned on going live at 11, so it kind of worked out that Pretty was basically wrapping it up at the same time, and then I had put it in the comments that I was getting ready to go live. So I don't know if she saw it, but I told her, I was like, let them know I'm going live. But really, I wanted to start my live right before hers ended, so that when people close out of hers, they see mine already up. Does that make sense? Because I think somebody said they're getting common fatigue for today. Man, I thought you said that you did. I thought you were giving a commercial for me, like, yo, Yellow's going live now. Boo. All right, so you staying up here for the domestic violence stuff, or are you heading out?
I'm gonna head out because I'm actually doing work. I don't have much to contribute to this, I don't think.
Okay. All right, go ahead and I'll see you drop down. Or I'll drop you down rather. Yeah. So he gave a commercial for himself, right? I was like, oh, let the people know that I am going live. Hey, Sad, what's up, babes? So I am continuing the domestic violence series today. I had to take yesterday off. It was just like a lot. But today should not be so triggering. Today should not be so triggering because today is going to be much more informational. and hopefully conversational if the ladies want to come up and have conversation. As you guys know, whenever I do domestic violence series or talk about domestic violence, I am very specifically talking about violence done onto women. If the men come in the room and they are looking for someone to talk to them about their mental health and the issues that they've had with some woman and things like that, and she beat me with the pillow, she yelled at me bad, she called me cuss names, she emotionally violated me and all those things, please do go follow the JEs. That is a man willing to talk to men about mental health. I do not care about men's mental health. I think that men's mental health needs to be handled by men, and until we do so, it's never going to end, because when women deal with men's mental health, all men do is manipulate. And I stand firm on believing that they are not capable of having conversations about their mental health in an honest way with women, because they are too focused on trying to get the woman to believe that he is right and all this other kind of weird stuff, that he's good. So I don't get involved in that shit. If you guys ever see me tinkering with a man and asking him questions that looks like I'm digging into his mental health or asking him pervasive questions, it's because out of my curiosity and because I want to pick on him. It's literally never real. All right. But let's get to talking about domestic violence and cycle of abuse. So I'm going to go ahead and start with cycle of abuse. I see we've only got 17 people in here. So let's first start with tapping the screen. Let's start with sharing the live out. If you're in somebody's Discord, please let them know that we're live. And let them know that I said it's not going to be as triggering today as it was on Monday. I know Monday, a lot of people couldn't stay because it's just difficult. Because what we did on Monday, if you were not here, we actually listened to the quote unquote group therapy of men that were abusers for the purpose of being able to identify some of the issues and some of the red flags regarding domestic abuse from men. It wasn't because it's a show and tell and of what it's like when men do yoga. I'm with you, pretty. I side eye the men that are in there doing yoga. I'm gonna be honest with you. I'm not going to do like Common said and just call the police. But I do side eye men that feel like they want to be in predominantly women's spaces. I really feel like if I was a man and I wanted to do yoga, I'd probably just do it in my house. I don't think that I would go to classes that are predominantly for women, while women are getting into all of these different uncomfortable poses. And I'm going to tell you that whenever I've done yoga and there's like a man in the row behind me, I feel very uncomfortable. I feel very uncomfortable when men are in yoga classes. A lot of those positions and stretches that you get into can be sexually suggestive if your mind is in a sexual space. Downward dog, and like some of those other poses that you're going to get into makes me just very uncomfortable. I'm gonna be honest with you. Like if I see there's a man in the class, I just won't go. And I really, whatever. That's where I'm at with it. Y'all can feel however you want to feel about it, but like especially if they want to go and sit in the front. I'll say this: if the men want to be in the yoga class, you need to park yourself in the front. You need to park yourself in the front row. Okay? Because I really do think that a lot of the men that are in yoga classes, they park themselves in the back row for a purpose. So I know when we were over in Pretty's Live, that came up as a topic of discussion. Yeah, I don't like it. Why don't you go to the step aerobics class? Why don't you go to the spin class? But, whatever. It's a free world, and unless it's a woman's only gym, that's what you'd have to deal with. All right, so today, like I said, I want to open with cycles of abuse. So I'm going to go ahead and put cycles of abuse up there. So let me pull that up. I'm going to pull up that image for us. Again, please make sure to share the live out. Please make sure to tap the screen. Give your daily heart me and do all the other things that we know help the algorithm. And I do know, like I say all the time, whenever we do these type of lives, we're immediately going to get a smaller live. just because of it not being rage baity. There's not going to be the dumb men. Yeah. What am I back up to do? Oh, thank you. Listen, I love how we support each other. I love how we support each other. All right, so oh, this is the power and control wheel. Hold up, that's not the one that I wanted to do yet. Let's take that one off. We're gonna do cycle of abuse first. And I thought that here it is. Okay. Here, sources. So how many of you guys are already familiar with the cycle of abuse? Let me get a 1 in the comments if you're already familiar with the cycle of abuse. All right. So while I'm bringing it up, I'll talk a little bit about what it is. All right. So cycle of abuse speaks to what it is like inside of the home with someone who is abusive. I do see some ones popping up, so that's great. Oh, did it not take the picture? Oh, so okay, I guess I got to take it right from the website. That sucks. All right. Let's do it that way. We can do that. Here and to the website. So cycle of abuse is a great tool to understand what is happening inside of the home. If you are in an abusive situation, it kind of makes it a little bit clear as to why it's been difficult to leave. And it also is a great tool for gaining empathy on why other women have not left. And that is one of the things that I want to talk about today, why women don't leave. Because an interesting thing is much more questions are asked about why women leave than why men abuse, which is why we started Monday out with men abusing. All right. Now, let's start at the bottom when we're looking at this, right? What we have at the bottom here is the honeymoon stage, and that's typically where relationships start. I mean, if you were to start at explosion or remorse or tension, the woman, regardless of her status, she probably just would not get into a relationship with you. Who would do that? Like, who's going to just start with that? So relationships almost always start out in the honeymoon phase, which is really what honeymoon is all about, right? The beginnings of a relationship. It's all good, right? We also will often see love bombing here. And I want to do a little bit of talking about love bombing today as well if we get to it. Love bombing isn't on the top of my list, but if we get there, I definitely do want to go there. So honeymoon starts out with affection, adoration, gift giving, helpfulness, and compliments, right? All the things that sound like the beautiful beginnings of a relationship, right? Look at how sweet he is. He's so affectionate. Maybe even add in here that he is consistent, right? We see a lot of consistency at the beginning of the relationship, and as it moves forward, not so much, right? After the honeymoon stage is done, we're going to go to the next one over, which is tension. Oh, right here, tension. All right. With tension, we're going to see moodiness, nitpicking, criticism, threats, gaslighting, and mind games. What is really dangerous about the tension situation, the tension phase of the cycle of abuse, is that it seems like normal human behavior. Like everybody's moody sometimes. And okay, so what? He nitpicks, everybody nitpicks, everybody has their little preferences. We're just getting to know each other. We're just navigating through his likes and dislikes and my likes and dislikes. That's normal. It's very normal to kind of go through a little rough patch, to go through a little thing where we're negotiating where we each stand, right? And so a lot of times people inside of the relationship, because they're still feeling so good and so high from what they had in the honeymoon stage, they do not recognize what's happening in tension. The other thing about the tension phase that I want to make clear, that's not ever made clear on these wheels, is that the honeymoon stage and the tension stage have a crossover. They bleed into each other. All right. So it's not like you go to sleep one day and you wake up out of the honeymoon stage and into the tension stage. And here we are, gaslighting. He's moody. He's nitpicking. No, he is going to bleed those two together for a little bit, right? It's going to seem like he's still going to be affectionate. He's still going to he's still going to give you adoration, maybe even helpful or compliments, and just stick a moody in there one day. And because he just stuck one moody in there one day, you're not really thinking anything about it. You're like, yeah, it's just a bad day, no big deal. It's not a big deal, whatever. And then he's gone back to the affection. He's gone back to the adoration. You might even get a gift here or there, whatever. And then, boop, there's a little criticism, right? And you'll think to yourself, like, what's a little criticism? Everybody has a right to criticize a little bit. You know what I'm saying? What's a big deal? I have my own criticisms too. I told him that I didn't like it, that he, he said he was going to call at 10 and he called at 12. I told him that I didn't like that he could have just texted me and say he wasn't going to call, right? I have my little criticism. So what's his little, what's a little criticism, right? And then he's going to go back into the adoration, back into the affection, all these other kind of things. And then we're going to throw a little bit of gaslighting in there, right? We're going to talk a little more deeply about gaslighting today. And I really want to talk about gaslighting today because I get triggered on this internet when I hear people misuse the word gaslighting. It happens literally like every day. Every day I hear somebody, friend and foe, misuse the word gaslighting. So we're going to make sure that we go through the actual definition. I have a little video for us to watch on gaslighting and what gaslighting is so that we're using that terminology correctly. When we use the terms inappropriately, we subtract from the meaning. Okay. So please, ladies and gentlemen, please try to make sure that we are using these terms correctly and we're not just throwing them out there because we heard somebody else say it. Okay. We cannot be trust me girl, trust me sis, just like we don't want them to be trust me bro. If you don't really know the definitions to words, ask somebody, look it up, do those things. Because I hear people identify gaslighting on this app that's not gaslighting all the time. All right. So like I said, with this, I really wanted to make sure that I'm bringing it home, that we do start at honeymoon and then the tension is seeped in little by little. You're hearing music in the background? You're hearing music in the background? I don't hear music in the background. And I'm watching the live from my backup. And when I turn the music up, like I turn the volume up on the thing, I'm not hearing any music. So Dove, I'm not sure what's going on, why you hear music in the background, but look, this is my live on the back. I'm not sure what's going on, why you hear music in the background, but look, this is my live on the back. I'm not sure what's going on, why you hear music on the back. Yeah, so I'm not sure what's going on, Dove. It might be your phone. TikTok, yeah, come out and come. So the other day that happened to me, I was hearing music on my own phone. I had to all the way close the app and come all the way back in. I don't know what was going on there. But yeah, like I said, back to cycle of abuse, I really wanted to make sure and bring it home that they bleed in and it's not like a stop and then you get the other thing, right? So as we move into tension, we'll start to get less and less of the affection, adoration, more of the moody, more of the nitpicking, more of the criticisms, the threats, the gaslighting, mind games, right? Threats are usually one of the last ones before the explosion, all right? Next, after that is we have the explosion itself, right? No worries, Dove, it happens. During the explosion itself, that can be physical, it can be sexual, it can be, and it can even be emotional abuse. So with the emotional abuse, what we see sometimes is that's when they call you out your name. That's when they start cursing at you. That's when there's yelling and screaming in this aggressive moment that may or may not land in physical, right? And I think that when we talk about explosion, we only see it in the view of physical or sexual. And I think that physical is the first one that typically comes to mind. I want y'all to stop thinking about that like that. the yelling and screaming, name calling, and all of these other kind of stuff, yelling of threats and things that looks like something aggressive, even though they didn't touch you, is also an explosion. And we're going to know that that's an explosion because followed by it, we're going to jump right into remorse. I didn't mean to say that to you. I'm sorry. I just lost my cool. I know that that wasn't right. I promise not to do it again. Then we have the justifying and excuses. You just made me so upset. You just made me so mad. You just triggered something in me. I just lost my cool because you, right? That's in the justifying and excuses, where after they're done with the guilt and the apology and the promise, they find a way to make it your fault. I want you guys to really pay attention to that as something that happens. Now, although the focus of this live and of this series really is focused in on the man-woman relationship where the woman is the victim, I want you to also understand that the cycle of abuse happens in other relationships as well. We can go around these with friends. We can go around the circle over and over and over with friends. All right. We can have friends that are abusive, and I want us to not think that that's not possible. All right. So that is cycle of abuse. By the way, you guys, the queue is open because I do have some questions and things like that that I want to go through with people as we get along. So if you're wanting to get into the queue, please go ahead and put your request in for us to go through the queue. All right. Hopefully this has been helpful to you guys as far as cycle of abuse and learning about the cycle of abuse. All right, perfect. We do have somebody coming up. Let's give it a moment to go ahead and load Bevan. Welcome, Bevan. The floor is yours.
Hi, I just joined. I'm just joining the queue so that if I have something to say, I can add it. I don't really understand the topic yet.
Okay, so today we're talking about domestic violence, and we're talking about abuse, right?
Yeah.
And I was first just going through the cycle of abuse from honeymoon, where it starts out all wonderful and great, and then they start seeping in the things that are in the tension. And then we'll have our explosion, which could be physical, sexual, emotional abuse. It can be yelling, screaming, attacking, throwing things, putting your hands on you, whatever that is, and then followed by the guilt, apologies, promises, justifying, and excuses. And I was just now saying, please, one of the things that is a good indicator that the remorse is actually just to throw you back into the next cycle of abuse is that inside of those apologies, they will find a way to make it your fault, right? So
Yeah.
I feel bad. I'm apologizing. I'm so sorry. I'll never do this again. However, after that, we get you just made me so upset. Once they've added that, you've just made me so upset, you can know that this person is planning on sending you through the cycle of abuse again because they're prepping you at that moment to take the blame for the abuse. And the way that
Yeah.
they prep you to take the blame for the abuse is by covering it with an apology. I'm so sorry. I'll never do this again, but you, right?
Okay, I see that as manipulative and they're trying to gaslight you. It'll end up being a controlling relationship where you always think that you're the one that is doing something wrong. Meanwhile, it's their fault.
Yes, I see Jess in the comments says, you know how I get when I'm upset. If anybody has any more of those examples of the apology that includes blaming the other person, throw those in the chat. I'll read them out, right? If anybody's got any more of those apologies that include blaming the other person, because I want us to be, you made me do it. You made me do it. That's another one, right? So I'm so sorry, but you made me do it, right? Um, it's, what I've been through, right? You know what I've been through. You know that this just upsets me. I'm really particular about whatever that thing is. I was just hungry. You said you were going to make dinner and you didn't. I was just this, I was just that. You always know how to make me angry, right? You knew who he was from the beginning. You knew who I was from the beginning. You brought me to this. I'm yelling because I care so much. You know I don't like XYZ. I'm doing all of this for you, right? All of this type of language of taking the apology and somehow twisting it into um, a way that it's the woman's fault is a huge indicator that this is not going to be an isolated incident. This is going to happen again. And what they often will do is throw themselves right back into the honeymoon stage, right? Because the honeymoon stage is how they sucked you in to begin with. They understand, right? They understand that the way to pull you back in is to do the things that they did to get you in the first place, right? So we're going to get some gifts. Maybe some flowers are going to come home. Maybe we're going to have the I miss you text that didn't come before, the affection, the helpful compliments, all of those things. And little by little, they will start to seep that tension stuff in again. The other thing that I want us to know and be aware of with this particular one, it makes it appear as though each section is equal in size. It makes it seem like each section is equal in size, and that's not necessarily the case. The honeymoon stage can be really big, right? The honeymoon stage can actually go on for years. They can flip-flop between honeymoon and tension for literally years. And by the way, for the ones that do that, they're even more effective in keeping you stuck there. Because when they finally do the explosion, they're going to, the victim, right? Not you, but the victim is going to rationalize this has never happened before. And when he says to you, this will never happen again, you will believe him. Because you've gone for years with it tinkering between honeymoon and tension. And so they have set a good foundation for you to believe that this was an isolated incident. Also, every time you go around the loop, the honeymoon stage gets smaller and smaller. The tension and the explosion parts get bigger and bigger. The guilt, apologies, and promises get smaller and smaller. The justifying and excuses get bigger and bigger. So do understand that this wheel does not stay at the same size as it goes around. Welcome up, Halo. How you doing, honey?
Good morning, Mellow Yellow. What up, fam?
Hey, to Education
So
Live today.
I see that, and I wanted to add in just a little razzle dazzle, per usual. Um, the men will hit you with you know what I've been through. I have trust issues. The women before you hurt me, and I'm still very much on guard, and that's why I hurt you. I didn't mean to, but yeah, because I have insecurities from my last relationship. You know what I'm saying? You get what I'm saying, but I'll do better. It will never happen again. And then they'll gaslight, well, they won't gaslight you, they'll love bomb you after harming you the first couple of times. They'll love bomb you, and then like after the first couple of times and they got you back into a comfortable state of existence with them, they'll go harder. They'll go harder.
That was excellent. That was absolutely excellent because there is something super duper manipulative about that very particular tactic that you just used, because inside of that, what it does is makes the victim beg him to see that she's different.
Yep. So the victim would start working harder to show the person that they aren't like the other women that they say that they are so traumatized from. Essentially, putting you in this state, this gaslit state. You know how they describe like being gaslit to the maximum capacity, where you kind of just like living in this foggy existence after a while. That's kind of what it looks like for the victim after like being gaslit so much into being and forming themselves into this person that their partner wants them to be. But essentially it doesn't work. It literally doesn't work still, because the man will still be abusive.
Yes. We've got Nana in the comments with a great one too, where they'll say, women always leave me and abandon me, right? And so this one pulls on the heartstrings, and again leaves the victim trying to prove she's different, literally using her guilt, right, to make her stay. All right. And a lot of today's conversation is going to be in why do women stay, right? And I think it's really important for us to understand why women stay, for those of us who need to understand why we stayed. And it's also important for us to understand it so that we can have empathy for other women when they stay, right? We Physical abuse is never, ever, ever without emotional abuse. You can have emotional abuse without physical abuse, but you cannot have physical abuse without emotional abuse. If you attempt to physically abuse somebody without the emotional abuse, they will leave. The emotional abuse is the part that makes them stay. It's the part that makes us stay. It's the part that makes women stay. It's the part that makes the victim stay. And it's super important that we're able to identify those things for ourselves and be able to pass this education on to other women. Welcome up, LaMonica.
Hi, hon. How are you?
I'm good.
Good. Yeah, I was listening in, and one of the things that I remember what happened to me, my ex, when he first became abusive, and then when I said I was going to leave, he threatened to harm himself. So of course that was the trick to because you're like 13, 14 years old. This was happening to me very early. So you're thinking if this happens to him, this is it's going to be my fault. You internalize them hurting themselves as your fault. It's another form of gaslight, emotional abuse to guilt you and make you feel bad if something happens to them. So that's what I just wanted to say.
That is also a great one to bring here. That the threat to hurt themselves, right? If you leave me, I'm gonna off myself. If you leave me, I don't know what I'm gonna do. If you leave me, I'm not gonna be okay. If you leave me, I don't have anybody else. Nobody else understands me. Nobody else cares about me. Nobody else, nobody else, nobody else, right? And then the woman then gets guilted into staying because she feels like if she were to go, what would happen, right? And there's even some kind of, especially if there's a marital commitment there already, then she feels responsible for him. He, and we hear, and here's another line for us to go down that doesn't necessarily happen inside the relationship, it happens in society, right? Women have to be a man's piece. Women are the space where men get an opportunity to let their emotions out. Women, what I want y'all to think about some places where they've made us responsible for the emotions of men. If anybody's got any in the comments, type it in the comments. I'll read them out loud. If there's anybody you got one, Bevan? Go right on ahead, honey.
Of what?
Of how society has made us responsible for the emotions of men.
Oh yeah, like when people are grown up and the boys do something mean to them, they'll say that you shouldn't pay attention to it, that boys are stupid. So we'll end up like in our mind forgiving them without them having to say sorry, because that's what we were taught taught when we were growing up.
Absolutely. Yes. The fact that society has a lack of accountability they allow boys to have a lack of accountability when they're cruel to girls. That's absolutely like a training that happens from the time that they're very little. If he's mean to you, he likes you. That's a great one too, right? That is a setup. Think about the mind fuck that is. That if he hits you, it means that he likes you. If he's mean to you, it means that he likes you. Because that is literally training us that any attention is good attention, right? Even bad attention is still attention. If he pulls his hair, he likes you. If he pushes you or hits you, it's boys will be boys, right? All of these things feed into the monster that happens in these relationships. All right, let's move on along a little bit. I'm going to move into the wheel one. Okay, let's do that. Just bear with me as I pull this up. Does everybody fully see and understand the cycle of abuse? Does anybody have any further questions on cycle of abuse, or do we kind of already understand what's happening there? We're all good with that one?
Nope. Basically, you telling us that it looks like them escalating the same way Ike Turner escalated on his wife.
Absolutely.
We got it clear.
All right, cool. Perfect. All right, let's go into. Let me let Hey to.
Because y'all remember anime in the beginning, he was super nice to her. He wasn't laying a finger on her. He was treating her like she was a fairy fucking princess until she got to see the real him with his baby mama, and she got to literally see him slap her up. You feel
Yeah.
me? He allowed the baby mama to catch him cheating on her in real time. And then the very lady that he was cheating on her with got to witness her getting the tar beat out of her by that man. And then after that lady got away, that's when he started taking that shit out on anime. And it started off small. It was a trickle down effect. And like he'll whack her and then give her a gift. And then the worse the punishments got, the bigger the gift was.
Yeah. Hey, and that is very common, right? It's almost like rewarding her for taking the abuse. It's actually really sick when you think about it. Welcome up, Hey too.
Hey, I wanted to say, what you were saying about like the kids, like the little boys, I think is actually crazy because it starts from when you're in like nursery and primary school, with making it so that boys are not held to accountability for the things that they do. Because if we think about all through society, all through time, that is how it's been, where a little boy will do something and then it will just be like, you'll say to the little, you won't say nothing to the boy, you'll just say to the little girl, oh well, oh, he likes you, or he wants to be your boyfriend, or you're saying this to little 5-year-olds. It's weird. I don't know why people do that. Even now I've seen that online, where people will do that kind of stuff, and they'll bring their little sons to like environments where kids should not be, and then be like, oh, you're staring at that woman, you're flirting with that woman, oh, he must like this woman. It's weird. I don't know why we do that as a society and think that's okay. And then it just carries on from primary school, high school, and then look what's happening in universities with adult men who should know better but still are not held to accountability.
And
Like, it's just like a cycle.
You know what's crazy? I think that caretakers of children are very afraid to just say the thing to parents. Your little boy hit little girls in the class, and you need to get it under control because he's going to grow up to be somebody that hits women in the real world. Imagine the daycare worker saying that to you about your son, right? And I think we often like go into like the boy mom thing. I mean, there's boy dad thing too, which we never talk about, right? You know what? Maybe I'm gonna put that on my list of things to talk about. I'm gonna put boy dad because I feel like we talk about boy moms all the time, but we do not talk about the harm that boy dads inflict. I'm gonna put that on my list for topics. Boy dads, because you would not that you wouldn't be able to say it. I mean, we could say it, we just don't, right? Why can't we say to a parent, you need to get this under control because if you do not, he's gonna grow up to continue to hit girls. He's gonna grow up to hit his girlfriend. He's gonna grow up to hit his wife. He's gonna grow up to hit whoever it is that he's living with. Why we can't say that? Why can't we say that?
We should be able to. And it should be like that is how you make your child take accountability for their actions. But even at a young age, kids are very smart. There's no reason why a little boy cannot understand. You don't hit. I remember one time my daughter, she wouldn't, I had to go back to work 6 months after I had my daughter. I put her in this nursery that was close to my house, and she wasn't there for long because she got bit on the hand, and it lifted up skin. It was bleeding and everything like that. I went down there because they didn't call me. I went down there to pick her up, and she was like, "Oh, a little boy bit her," and I was like, "That's a big bite. Like, why is?" I think he was like 2. I was like, "Why is he left around her?" And she was like, "Oh no, it was just like a split second. Um, he has older brothers, and that's what they do at home." I was like, and his mum is not speaking to him about biting and the rest of the kids to know that this is not a good thing because now he's bitten my child. And she wouldn't tell me the child, she wouldn't let me know who the mum is or nothing like that. Like, I ended up taking her out because that was just like one big thing on top of other things that I didn't like. So I took her out and put her in another nursery.
Yeah,
I have an example
go
in
ahead.
regards to my job. My job, we deal with cameras and security and installation, and I had a daycare in our program who she was
LaMonica,
always
your volume is really low.
Can you hear me now?
A little bit better, minimally. Like you went
Hold
from
on.
volume 4 to volume 5. Like not much
What about
difference, but a
now?
little better.
What about now?
Perfect.
Perfect. So my job, we deal with security and cameras, and we have a daycare in our program with her cameras, and she got a ton more. She started with 4 cameras, but then she suddenly asked for a ton more cameras. She got a ton more cameras. When I talked to her, she said, "I'm sick of tired of explaining why I have to kick children out." She said, "This little boy went around hitting all of the girls," and she said, "And I wanted proof to show the parents this boy is a problem. He can't come back to my daycare. He's out. I'm not keeping him. He's out." So you do get some, but I do agree with Hey too is that a lot of these parents don't want to address their children. They just think it's all cutesy when they're young and they'll grow out of it, but it needs to be immediately addressed and there should be consequences and not just, oh, go sit in the corner, little Johnny, especially when you see that he is completely always targeting the girls, because he blacked the eye of like a couple of the little girls. So she's worried about getting sued, and she's like, no, this is the person who did it. This is the kid. I kicked him out. And then there it is.
Yeah, I remember when my little sister was in, I think, elementary school, and a little boy was hitting on her all the time. He was hitting her. He was hitting on my little brother, which he was only like 2 grades under her. Well, no, 3 grades. But eventually my sister got tired of it and she hit the boy back, and the boy turned around and bit her for it. And when they both got in trouble, my sister got in more trouble than the little boy. Like, even though the teacher seen and knew that the little boy was always following my sister around, she still got in more trouble just because she hit him back. But at the end of the story, I'm sorry, I'm drinking coffee. But at the end of the story, they tried to basically attribute it to him liking my sister, having a little puppy love crush thing on her. And my mom, she was like, absolutely the fuck not. My mom wasn't hearing that shit. But we see that all the time, like even at our places of work, right? Um, the men can essentially harass us, essay us on the job. They can do all kinds of unnecessary things that isn't quite great, but it's along the lines. And like, if you report to the authorities or to the higher ups, they'll kind of brush it off. They'll make a note of it, but they'll still essentially brush it off, right? And if you say anything, as far as like defending yourself, the woman is essentially the one now getting the majority of trouble. But if we don't say anything, nothing happens. They won't do anything. The man won't lose a job. He won't even be demoted from his position. And I'm speaking from experience. I've literally had this happen where I've had somebody essay me on a job, and it was reported since the time I started training to that very moment, right? It was reported every single time. And the moment I got tired of it and I said something to the guy that had cuss words attached to it, I was the one that got in trouble. I was the one that got fired.
Not to get off too much on the political stuff, it's about to get worse, y'all. It's about to get worse because as we see society retracting the rights of women and things like that, I don't see this getting better. I see it getting worse. Um, let's move into power and control wheel. I just learned about the power and control wheel yesterday, day before yesterday. So I had opportunity to look into it and find out what it's all about. And basically, it's about identifying the tactics that are used for power and control. Because I think that because we're socialized that men are the protectors, they've been able to exploit that into uses of power and control, right? So as we go around the wheel, these are just different ways that it's used. I'm going to start with using economic abuse. That is, let's go on to the panel. What are some ways that we have economic abuse? We'll go straight, starting from Bevan and go right on around. When you think of economic abuse, what comes to mind?
I feel like in the workplace that would be like economic abuse. Like, let's say a man has like an assistant and then it's a female. She'll be given like more tasks compared to if the man had an assistant and it was a man.
Yeah, agreed. Go ahead, Halo.
Is economic abuse basically what they're doing as far as like the pay difference between men and women?
Yeah, in a socioeconomic way, yes,
Okay,
absolutely.
okay.
Right? Because if we're going to take it from a systemic approach, yeah, absolutely. The pay gap is part of that, right? Because when we are able to have our own economic freedom, it's harder to keep somebody in a situation that they don't want to be in. So, yeah, definitely from a systemic perspective, the pay gap is absolutely part of economic abuse. LaMonica?
Oh yeah, economic abuse easy. Abusing credit, having everything in her name, defaulting, running up credit cards, things of that nature. Not paying the rent. The reason that a lot of black women are the most evicted because they can't get anything in their name, so they get everything in the woman's name, and then when they default, that history follows her. There's also just the abuse of the actual finances, spending money on all of the things, ensuring she doesn't have money to stash away. Always finding a way to make a crisis as soon as she gets a lump of money. There's something he needs it for that doesn't go towards the things that are needed. The car, making sure her vehicle doesn't work, making sure everything is always a struggle for her. You could have two incomes and constantly he's in need of something and she feels bad. So if they abuse that the finances in that way. I mean, it's as little as how much money you need to get to work in regards to gas money. They will drive your gas out and constantly have you paying, so you're constantly behind. So they know what they're doing when they do that, as someone who's experienced it. So
Perfect. Hey, Two, what do you got? When you think of economic abuse, what comes to mind?
Well, I always feel like I feel like it's a very popular type of abuse, because when women want to buy anything for themselves, it's always seen as, oh, you have like a spending habit. But then, men, they're always spending their money on like cars and the clothes and the things that they like, and it's fine. But then when the woman wants to do it, it's like, oh no, we don't need that. You don't need another skirt. You don't need another this. And it's like, it's okay for them. I feel like that's very common in relationships, and making sure that he's the one with the money, and that when she needs to get anything, even if it's like food for the kids and stuff, you have to call them and ask. My mum went through that for years, when women couldn't, have bank accounts and stuff like that. And my dad would just like gamble the money away, and she would have to ask him. So he was fine with us going without, so that he could go and gamble and do whatever nonsense he was doing. But then left my mum having to struggle.
Yep. I see Rosie in the comments says, being a stay-at-home wife is economic abuse. And it very well can be in many situations, particularly when she's stay at home, but there is no, the money is not available to her, right? So I hate the stay-at-home mom situation. I think it's very, very dangerous for women. But I always say, like, listen, women, y'all got your own choices. I can only advise you on what I think is most dangerous. Y'all gonna do what you want to do anyway. What I'll say is this: under no circumstance should you get into a scenario where you're the stay-at-home mom and you don't have full access to the money. If you're doing the stay-at-home mom thing, it is supposed to be considered household money, meaning that you are supposed to have the very exact same access to the money that he does, the very exact same access to how it's spent and managed, right? And when these men talk about this traditional shit, traditionally, he handed his entire check over to her. That's how that's supposed to be done. So let me give y'all a little bit of advice. When that man says, "Oh, I want you to stay home," ask him, will he be turning his check over? If the answer is no, under no circumstances should you agree to get into that. You should only agree to be a stay-at-home mom if he's going to turn his entire check over to you. And that part of your job is going to be managing the money. If it's not, don't do it. Latricia says utilizing 50-50 to keep a woman broke. Absolutely. Especially in scenarios where he makes significantly more than she does. And 50-50 is not actually 50-50. You cannot 50-50 with somebody that makes $110,000 and you make 45. You cannot 50-50 with that person. What you're going to end up is you are going to end up broke, and they're going to always end up with excess money. When it comes to money in the households, for me, there's only two acceptable financial arrangements. Arrangement number one is he pays all the major bills and your money is used for the here's and theirs. And the second one is the one pot method, where you take all your money, he takes all his money, you dump it into one account, and the major bills are paid from there. And then a certain amount that's the same goes back to each of you for you to have to enjoy. Things outside of that, end up in economic abuse more often than not. Go ahead, Halo. You got the floor.
You actually just spoke on the very thing that I was going to ask about. Like, do you, I was going to say, do you think men making women spend their money, like all of their money on the kids, and the men only having to pay like the utilities is economic abuse? Because if we really look at it, women taking care of children financially, that's a everyday, damn near every moment occurrence, right? So women are like spending a bag just to feed, just to clothe, just to do like little events and you know what I'm saying, hobbies with the kids. And the men's job, they only have to handle that once a month. So really, in retrospect, it would be most definitely economic abuse. But
I
you had
think
already answered my question.
I think that really depends on how much each person is making, period, and also how much they make in relationship to each other, right? So that may be a better deal. That may be the good deal if the mortgage is $3,000. It may not be a good deal if the mortgage is 600, right? So I think there's all of these other factors that kind of go into it. That may be a good deal if she makes $110,000. It may not be a good deal if she makes 35.
But it still can be at the end of the day,
Yeah,
possibly.
absolutely. It can be. It can
Yeah.
be. Yeah. But I
I'm
think
thinking
there's a
that
lot
it
of
is
like,
because
go ahead, LaMonica.
I'm sorry. I was gonna say I was gonna think that it is because they're still your children. Why wouldn't you, as a man, want to spend any money on your children and just say it's only her money that goes towards the children? You know, it just seems
Well,
really abusive to me.
if they're okay, so it depends, right? Again, if he's paying all of the household bills, we're talking about the cell phones, we're talking about the car notes, we're talking about car insurance, we're talking about the mortgage, we're talking about the energy bill, the water bill. He does all of those things, and then he says to you, I'm going to handle those things, and then costs that come up for the kids is for you to handle. Depending on how much money you make in relationship to him, that may or may not be a fair deal, right? There's a lot of sliding skills involved inside of that. That's why, like, there's, really 50-50 is not a conversation unless y'all make around about the same amount of money. You can't go 50-50 with somebody who makes 3 times what you make, right? And it's going to depend as well. Like, how much stuff do you have the kids in? Are the kids in private school and now you're paying private school $2,000 a month? Are the kids like, are they in a school where there's uniform, or are you buying new clothes for the kids constantly? The groceries for the house, how many kids do you have? Having one kid, groceries looks like something. Having 5 kids, the groceries look like something different, right? So all of these things need to be negotiated. The problem with I'll pay these bills and you pay for whatever the kids happen is when you keep on having kids and we don't go back to the negotiation table. Because maybe that was feasible and fair when there was one child. Now it's not when you have 4.
Exactly. And more so I was thinking about
Yellow.
like within our socioeconomic class. But you're absolutely right. For other people, it does look like them paying for private school mortgages, blah 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 blah. But just within our socioeconomic class, most men are not paying mortgage. You know what I'm saying? So their rent, just where I stay, their rent might look like between $700 to $1,200, right? But if you really look at it, the amount of money that mom is spending in food and clothes, child care, doctors visits, insurance, shit like that, she's actually spending more money than what the man is spending in rent.
Right. And that's why I say it's really individualized, because rent is $2,000 near me for a 2-bedroom. So if he came out and he paid the $2,000,
Yellow.
that's really freeing up a decent amount of money for me, So there's so many different factors, but there's need to be conversations about what fair looks like, and then also how the other labor is spent. Go ahead, A2.
Do you think then if he's paying like he's paying all the bills and then you're doing stuff for you're paying stuff for the house and the kid doing housework and that too, then when he comes home, he can still help with the house and do stuff like that.
Yeah.
Because I feel like a lot of times in relationships, it's, you know, the woman is doing majority of that and working and paying bills, and then he may be paying like the rent, and I don't know, we have like council tax in the UK, and then like, you know, you have to put into like the NHS and other stuff, so we have those kind of bills over here. So if he's paying those kind of bills and like electricity and that, and then you're doing everything else, I still feel like she's, even though household like cleaning stuff is not paying, but you still do it, you're still doing a service kind of thing.
So for me, right?
So I think that's fair.
For me, the division of household labor is not about the income or how the money's spent. It's about how much time each person has to spend outside the house. So if I still do a 40-hour week and you do a 40-hour week, and my 40-hour week is worth $1,500, but your 40-hour week is worth $3,000, it doesn't mean that I'm supposed to do more work inside the house. I still did 40-hour week. You still do 40-hour week. The labor in the house is not supposed to be distributed by how much money came in. It's supposed to be how much time did you have to spend outside of this house in order to do other things, right? Because what should happen is that both partners should have the same equal availability to free time. And that's what you're really fighting about, right? That's what the real fight is. The real fight is for free time. The real fight is for him being able to play his video games for an hour, 2 hours, or whatever it is. You being able to go to the nail salon and relax for a little bit away from the children. Or you being able to sit in your bedroom and, I don't know, catch up on your Netflix show undisturbed. You're fighting for free time. You're not fighting for the money. And in that case, it doesn't matter who makes more. He can be making way more. You can be making way more. You can make round about the same. The question is, are you getting the same amount of time to recollect yourself? Are you getting the same amount of time to relax, to readjust, to tend to your mental health, to meditate, to decompress? Are you getting that? Does that make sense?
No, it makes perfect sense.
Right? So,
because that's the thing that most mothers, women, period, is complaining about. It's not about the money.
it's not about the money. The money has nothing to do with it. So if I have to take 40 hours out the week immediately to go wherever I go, plus whatever the commute time is, right? And if you're going to do that negotiation, you could start backwards, meaning how much free time should I have? How much free time should you have? And let's make sure this house does what it needs to do so that I can get what I need to get and you can get what you need to get. And it requires you to do more in the house because you're in the house more, then that's what it requires. But let's move on to the next one. Using coercion and threats, right? And before I move off of the economic abuse, like we were on the stay-at-home thing, but it also can be used in these scenarios of where he makes significantly more. And society, now bear with me, right? Bear with me, y'all. I know, what's her name hates it when I say bear with me, right? She's like, oh, Yo's about to say some pick me shit, right? Society has us chasing men that make more money so that men can turn around and tell us that they make more money. Society has us chasing men that make more money so that they can turn around and tell us that they make more money. Egalitarian would look like you make round about the same and you're doing round about the same amount of labor in the house. That's what equality would actually look like. And I'm not saying don't go after a man that makes significantly more. I'm just saying understand what it is.
No, you ate with that, Yellow, because that's kind of like the power up word. Like once that is in effect, then there's really no stopping men from exacting all of the things that they tend to exact upon women, us being under them and subjugated to them, right? That's how they maintain their power, by making sure that they are above us financially.
So let me add in, right? If you are doing the stay-at-home mom thing, number one, I would not do that. Like I said, number one, he needs to be turning the whole check over. If I'm doing stay at home, then managing the finances is going to be on my thing. I got that. Don't worry about it. Go ahead, make your money, direct deposit it, and I want access to all of it. Because if that is the case, that is household money. That's not your money. It's not your money. It's our money. Without my armor, I'm not in the mood for you, right? If he is not viewing it as our money, you are setting yourself up for abuse.
Didn't they do that like feudal era Japan, where the men made the money, but they gave all the money to the women, so the women can be able to basically manage it and put it where it needs to go, pay the rent, food, whatever, children's education fees, yada yada yada.
That is the traditional household. Let me explain to y'all real quickly, right? You guys remember when they used to have things like workshop and home ec inside of high school? Y'all remember that? If you don't remember it, then you're aware of it. You've heard of it.
Really?
Okay. Money management was in home ec, and home ec was for girls. It was not in workshop. The classes that were geared for boys did not include money management. The classes that were geared for girls included money management, because the traditional household is the man goes out and makes the money and turns the check over to the woman, and managing the finances was always the woman's job. As a matter of fact, if you look at old movies and things like that, you will always see the woman dealing with the money, right? And one of the ways that they used to do the money is because the man would get paid his check, she would go cash the check, right? And then what she would do is she would have little envelopes for everybody that needs to get paid. And she would also manage the checking book, right? So she had an envelope for the mortgage. She had an envelope for the guy that did the what's it called? The milkman. She had an envelope for whatever it was. Like, that was how money was managed back in that day. And the woman would be the one who, quote unquote, had the woman was the one that had time to sit down and deal with the bills. Also, banking hours were open when the woman would be home and the man would not. So men couldn't do banking. The woman would be the one that went to the bank. So much so, because they had to cash their checks every week and make deposits and manage their checkbook, they would go to the bank on a weekly basis, to the point that the people at the bank knew her. She would walk in and say, "Hey, Mrs. Yellow. Oh, hey, Mrs. Whoever, how are you doing? How's the kids? Oh, the kids are fine." She may be, when the kids are small, maybe even bringing her little carriage with her to the bank. And she would leave from the bank, and then when she got home, she put a certain amount to stay in there and a certain amount she knew that she needed to take out in cash, right? And then she would write out her little budget, right? This much is for groceries. I'm going to make it work. This much is for whatever. This much is for whatever. And put her little envelopes. And that's how they kept budget back in the day. It was never that she was home and he controlled the money. This was not I don't want to say never. Obviously, there were controlling relationships where that happened, but that is not traditional household. So if you gonna go and take your risk and say, "I'm gonna go do traditional household with somebody," make sure his intent is to turn his check over to you, right? And then she would save from whatever he gave you. And in today's economy, it should, in my opinion, look like not only is he turning over the check to you, but there's a certain amount of the budget that belongs to you investing in making money for yourself. So that in the event that anything happens, you actually already have a thriving business or investments or investment homes, etc. right? And if he cannot do that, I don't recommend it. I don't recommend
No,
it, period.
we just ate with that yellow, and I was just thinking about it as you were speaking. Um, a lot of different cultures did that, like basically entrusted the women to hold on to their family fortunes, and it would look like them gifting the women, especially the wives. Um, they'll give them like little treasures, heirlooms that they can pass down that were like worth thousands, millions. They were gifted expensive pieces of jewelry that would essentially be passed down from generation to generation, and that was their way of maintaining their family's wealth. It didn't always look like them having piles of money and gold sitting in a safe. It looked like them gifting it to the young women in their families and them just passing it down. And if anybody had any financial trouble, they could just sell an heirloom for a couple million and be right back, rich again.
Yep. So, and I think that a lot of the conversations about the quote unquote traditional household have been manipulated and distorted by men now. They have been. They've been manipulated and distorted. Not to get too far into the religion shit, but let's go there for a short time, right? You hear men, especially like the Christian men, talk about the Proverbs 31 woman. The Proverbs 31 woman had a business. She owned a business. Actually, it was a vineyard, right? So it's not traditional for women to not have their own money. It's not even religious for women to not have their own money. But let's go on to using coercion and threats, right? Coercion, which we're all familiar with coercion, especially from the sexual space. But coercion exists in other ways inside of relationships and in the power and control dynamics, where they use manipulation, they use triangulation. They love triangulation. I really think of all the tactics that men have, triangulation is their favorite. I think that shit is their fucking favorite, to pin women against each other. Well, such and such's wife does this instead, and such's wife does that, and my ex-girlfriend did this, my mother did this and that, right? And if you can't do this, then what's your purpose? If you can't do that, then what's your purpose? Oh, Z says she thinks Darvo is their favorite. Y'all put it in the chat. What do you think is men's favorite tactic, right? So we've got Darvo, we've got triangulation, we've got gaslighting, we've got breadcrumbing.
I'll say mansplaining.
What is it?
Mansplaining.
Well, I don't know if mansplaining is a tactic, unless it's a tactic that like they literally exhaust you in the conversation, you give up because you're like, because mansplaining puts me to sleep. Like I lose interest in the fucking conversation when they start mansplaining. Savvy said all of them. They like all of them equally. Does anybody on the panel have something that they want to add into coercion and threats? Okay, let's move along to intimidation. So intimidation is exactly what it sounds like. It is using their physical body to make you feel uncomfortable, right? Getting in your face, yelling, right? And it also kind of like goes alongside with the threats, right? Emotional abuse are all the things that we just named. Isolation. Let's pause right there on isolation. Let's talk a little bit about ways that men isolate or language that's used to encourage isolation. Anybody got one? All right. I will start with, I don't like your girlfriend. She's a hoe. I don't like the way that your girlfriend dresses. I don't want you hanging out with her. I don't want the way that she behaves to rub off on you. How in the fuck? Yes, birds of a feather flock together. So if you're hanging out with her, you must be just like her, and I don't like her.
Wow, I was thinking the same one, but I got another one.
Go ahead.
I don't like people in my business, so don't tell anybody about what's going on in our relationship, because when you do that, that means too many people can have opinions and it'll get messy, blah blah blah. And once he gets you to the point where you're not telling anyone about what's going on in your relationship, he can get away with all the abuse he wants because you're not telling anyone what's happening to you.
Perfect. Absolutely perfect. I'm going to take a minute to remind everybody to tap the screen. We're only at 17,000 likes. Let's get the tapping up. Let's get the tapping up. Let's get us up to 30,000 for the taps. Hey, Two, the floor is yours, dear.
With like your family, they'll be like, oh, they're over too much. We never get time alone anymore. Or I feel like your mum doesn't like me. I think your dad, maybe he's telling you what to say and that's why you're changed.
I think you brought up a really good one with, I think your whoever doesn't like me. It's a nice one to flip it so that they don't appear to be doing isolation. They make themselves the victim. Your mom doesn't like me. Your sister doesn't like me. Well, if he feels like my sister doesn't like me, then maybe I'm not going to bring my sister around all the time because I don't want him to feel uncomfortable. I don't want him to feel, isolated. Who wants to be around somebody that you feel like they don't like you? So yeah, I'll not bring my sister around so much. I'll not have my sister come by so much. I'll not have whatever. That is a real fuck over. I feel like they don't like me. I feel like they don't accept me. I feel like they're judging me. And then insert any insecurity that you already know he has.
If because from what I have seen in my family, when that person, they always insert themselves into your life, so they're always around you and your family. So then he'll be like, oh well, your family doesn't want me there, and it's because they don't like me. They are thinking this, they're thinking that, and then that makes you be like, okay, well, stay away, because then they'll insert all of their feelings into it and make it your feelings.
Absolutely. Thank you, Z. Bevan, did you have something to add?
Yeah, when they say they don't want you around certain people, or they don't like being around your family because of certain reasons, that's literally trying to control your circle. It could literally shrink your relationships, and then you barely have people that you can confide in because of how restrictive the guy is. And he's trying to make your circle smaller than it already is.
Absolutely. And when we use that isolation tactic, what it then does is, of course, make it that you have nowhere to go. Isolation is the long game, y'all. Isolation doesn't happen overnight. That is the long game. They pick those people off one by one, right? And sometimes the flip to it with isolation is love bombing. You can use love bombing to create isolation, because it is, I just want to be around you all the time. I'm thinking about you all the time. And then they just eat up all the space of time that you have. You can't go out on the weekend. You can't go to your crochet club on Thursday nights anymore because he now wants to watch movies with you on Thursday nights. You can't go to Sunday dinner at your mama's house because he wants to take you out for a nice dinner on Sunday night. I know you normally do. I know you normally, hang out with all your sisters on Sundays, but I got tickets to this. And then the next week I know you normally hang out with your sisters on Sundays, but this new restaurant opened and Sunday's the only day that I can take you. I know, whatever. They can literally use love bombing to create isolation because they start to pull you away from your friends, start to pull you away from your family. And I think that's the most used one. And I think it's the most insidious one because you don't see that it's happening at all. You think that he's just loving on you. You think that he just wants to be around you. You're thinking that, oh my God, look at how into me he is. He doesn't want to spend a single day not next to me. What do y'all think about that? Hey, Sue, what's your reaction to that?
I'm sorry, I was distracted. My
No
daughter's in
worries.
here too. She's on the phone with her friends.
No worries. Bevan, what are your thoughts on that? Using love bombing to create isolation.
I feel like when they use love bombing to create isolation, you don't realize it and you feel like they love you more than ever. And by the time you realize it, it's too late because you've missed out on a lot of family events and family gatherings. And then you might feel like maybe you've already lost the closeness you had with your family and there's no point trying. And that's the kind of thinking that the guy is trying to put into you to make you to be distant from your closed ones.
Yeah, absolutely. Halo, what's your thoughts?
I feel like everything you guys said so far hit the nail right on top of its head, right? But I would like to actually add in another little sprinkle. The men will even isolate you from their friends just so they can be able to maintain that facade, in a sense, hold up that mask a little better. Because the moment he can make sure that you don't want to be around his friends and you just let guys be guys, so to say, that's him being able to therefore close that door and open up that window that he's sneaking out of to continue doing that fucking dirt that he does when you're not paying attention. Same thing goes for family members. He will isolate you from his family members for the same reason. And in reverse, isolate you from your friends and your family so you don't have anyone to talk to, because the moment you have any outside influences, then therefore you're going to start looking into the things that he does, right? And they want to make sure that you're incapable of doing that, so they're going to make sure that you stay away from everybody, thinking that he's just simply trying to keep you away from people for your protection because he cares, because he wants all your time and attention for himself. But really, it's just maintain a cover. Hi, Lynn.
What about this one? They are just jealous. She is just jealous. He's just jealous. They're jealous of what we have,
Yep.
right? So you start looking at the other women that were in your circle, have probably been in your circle since you were a child or a teenager or for years, and you're like, oh, is it jealousy? Is that why she's insistent that I come hang out with her instead of with my man? Because she wishes she had a man that wanted to be around her. She wishes she had a man that wanted to be with her, 99.5% of the time. She wishes she had what we have. Meanwhile, that lady just looking out for you. Maybe meanwhile, that lady's just trying to continue a relationship with you that you guys have always had. Meanwhile, that lady's just trying to be a sounding board for you. Meanwhile, that lady's just trying to be the space where you can actually get out and enjoy each other. Meanwhile, that lady just miss you. So, using isolation is a real tactic of power and control. Minimizing, denying, and blaming. They love that minimizing shit, right? So now you're like, listen, I just feel, I don't feel comfortable when you yell at me. Listen, yelling at you is no big deal, right? Every couple has its disagreements and yelling happens. That's just normal. You know, when you said that to me the other night about my weight, it really made me feel uncomfortable and insecure. What is the big deal? What's the big love? What's the big deal? What is the big deal? Why are you making a big deal out of something small? Why are you fussing? Why are you now? And so now something that should have been something that should have been a complaint or something that you're asking for to have more in the relationship turns into a way for, ooh, it's not that deep. Love that one too, right? It turns into a way for men to, come on, come on, come on. It's like, love me, pick me up. Okay. He's like really at the bottom of my chair, like, all right, come on, come on, come on.
Why you gotta turn everything into an argument, head ass?
Mm-hmm. Yes. So we want to make sure that we are able to point out these phrases, these tactics, the moment that you hear them. And by the way, like I said, some of these tactics are not just some of these tactics are not just used by men. They can be used in our friendships. They can be used in our families, right? Yeah, I don't want to give too much. But I had somebody recently, a friend, do some toxic ass shit. And it was the whole cycle of abuse. Yellow, I'm sorry. I wish I never did that. And then it was, what's the big deal? And then it literally, she went through all of the tactics, all of the tactics. And then when I was like, I just need some space, then it was compliments, public compliments. Let's move. So I want us to make sure I do support Aisha Curry. Aisha Curry is awesome. Aisha Curry is awesome. Aisha Curry did the stay-at-home mom thing right. She now has Aisha Curry is by herself worth $50 million. Her business ventures has her worth $50 million. That lady ain't a stay-at-home mom. I said that the other day. If your businesses are worth $50 million, you're not a stay-at-home mom. You're a businesswoman. But they want to call her a stay-at-home mom as if her work isn't work. But let a man have a business that's worth $50 million. They'd never call him a stay-at-home dad. I love Aisha Curry, so yes. Who cares? I have a friend and I always talk about them. When she met that man, he barely had any money. He was barely breaking even in his business. She was a physician assistant. She poured her investments into his business and now his business makes more than hers. So it was all on her account, I guess, if not for her. Right? So please, y'all, without my armor, no one is ever going to love you. I don't know what to tell you. You're never going to feel love. And the way that I know that you don't feel love and that you're never going to feel love is because you're here. If you had a woman to love on, you'd be over there because it would feel better than being here. I know being here doesn't feel good for you. So why don't you go to the space that feels good? Moving along. Do you guys have anything that you want to add on minimizing, denying, and blaming?
No, I don't have anything to add on.
Okay. Using children. Let me let y'all start with using children. What are your thoughts on using children and how using children can be used for power and control?
Like sometimes they could blackmail you, be like, think about the kids. Don't do it
Mm,
for yourself. What about the kids? And then
very.
they'll say, will the kids be happy with this decision?
Yeah, if you leave me, what'll happen to our family? Do you really want the children to have to go be shoveled from house to house? Trapping you with the baby, getting you pregnant just when you listen, you know how many women get pregnant their third year of college? Like
Probably not.
you know how many women get pregnant their third year of college and then they trying to convince them that they could finish up after the baby. And you can, but it's hard. It's hard. Why would you want to do that instead of just waiting another 2 to 3 years? No, why you feel like you want her to get pregnant now?
And I feel like most of them should not drop out. They should still try and graduate with the baby.
Yeah,
Because if you drop out, the man might give you like plenty excuses. Don't go back to school yet. The kids are too young. Don't go back to school yet. Who's going to parent your children? Until they're like in university too. That's when you finally have the chance to go back and complete your studies. And they'll probably be like, you would have never gotten your degree without me, because they would have been the ones sponsoring your studies.
yeah,
So they'll be holding it over you like a trophy.
yeah. Yellow, he wants me to do the same thing. I'm thinking about leaving him. Uh,
Leave him.
yeah. Why would you want to do that? Like, what is going to happen in the next couple years that you can't wait? What is happening in the next couple years that you can't wait and finish? What is the problem? What is the problem with just waiting until you're done with your education? Why does this even have to be a conversation about having a baby when you're not done with school? Finish school. And like that, Liz, she says we had an argument about it. Listen, I'm sorry, not sorry to hear that you're leaving him over that, because I'm telling you right now, if he wants you to have a baby before you graduate school, he doesn't give a shit about your goals. He don't give a shit about your goals today, and he's never going to. He's never going to give a shit about your goals. He's never going to give a shit about what makes you happy. It's always going to be about what makes him happy, and that is a control move. The baby trap is a big control move. That was a, what do you call it, like a projection when they told us we were the ones that were trapping men with babies.
That's ironic, because you're not the one that has to carry the baby for 9 months. You're not the one that puts your life on pause to try and make sure your baby gets the best of nutrition.
Yellow, whose live was we in where the man was up there talking about when he got married to his wife, he told her that if she left him, he wasn't going to take care of the kids. That's a good one too. If you leave me, if you ever break up with me or divorce me, I'm not paying child support.
And that's why women
Or they'll
have to say,
say, I'm gonna take the kids.
that
They'll
one
believe
too.
me.
That one too. And so let me
And
address.
then also
Go ahead.
to no one is going to want you because you're a mother, you have children now, no one is going to want you.
Oh, they love, but nobody's gonna want you. They love, but nobody's gonna want you.
Psychological warfare.
Halo, what did you say right before that one? Because I wanted to expound on it right before Hey2 said something, and then now it jumped out my head.
I said men threatening not to take care of the children if the woman leaves.
That one. And that is why it's so important for women to be in a financial place, for you to be able to say, okay, fine. Do it. Leave. I'm going to leave, and you ain't got to pay me shit. I'm still going to file the papers, and if you never pay it, that's your business. Do it. That's why it's so important for you to be able to say, do it. All right. Using the children also is the other one, right? So if he's already physically abusive, the idea of shared custody is scary, right? Because here's the thing, if you're in the house, you're protecting the children from him. What happens when he goes to the house for the weekend? What happens when they go to his house for the weekend and you're not there? I know somebody that is literally with their husband because she cannot stand the idea of what it's going to look like when the kids are at his house without her.
Oh, they're most definitely being neglected, being abused. Shit, most times the abuse look like malnourishment. Poor hygiene. They're exposed to things that they shouldn't be exposed to.
Yeah. And I think for her, it's mostly neglect. She feels that he'll neglect them, that they'll be hungry or they'll have needs and he won't tend to them. So using children, and that's why getting pregnant, um, getting pregnant is scary, scary business. Scary, scary business because we live in a time where maybe the fear isn't that he'll abandon you and the children completely. Maybe the fear is that he'll actually be there, and him being there is problematic. All right. Last one, using male privilege. What are you guys' thoughts on that? How using male privilege is used and abused into power control? So, I mean, we hear this shit online all
It
the
can
time.
be.
Go ahead.
What I was gonna say, it can be like, oh, you're just weaker. Oh, women shouldn't be doing this kind of job, or you don't need to work. Um, I can work and do this. You just stay home. Um, you know, women should be taking care of the house. I'm a man, I'm stronger. I can, handle this. Or, men are just smarter than women. We can do this, or you should listen to me because I'm a man and I know what I'm talking about.
Oh, I got a good one that's going to piggyback off what she just said.
Go for it, babes.
We're supposed to go 50-50 because I can't pay these bills by myself, but be that as it may, you're still in charge of doing all of the domestic duties because that's what women do. Even though you work a 12-hour shift just like I do, it doesn't matter. You're still charged with domestic labor because you're a woman. I'm a man. I'm not supposed to be doing these things.
With the case of a woman deciding to go out with her friends late at night and the guy not allowing her to go outside because she's a woman.
Ooh, I can't protect what I can't control.
Yeah, something like that. And then, like, you can't wear this outfit outside because you're a married person and you're a woman. Men will look at you differently, the attention you get, and all that kind of thing.
Absolutely. All right. So, I had a general question. Let me go back and get it. Which aspect of the wheel are most often overlooked in discussions about domestic violence and why?
Maybe like emotional, or like, yeah, maybe like emotional, or when they put you in danger, but they don't leave any bruises, so it'll be overlooked because like the authorities don't see it as something serious.
I agree. Rosie has financial abuse in the chat. That's a good one too because I think financial abuse looks like love. That's the problem. He's taking care of you.
I think it's coercion because if you bring up anything about them using coercion, they will laugh it off. They will literally laugh it off and be like, "You guys are just overthinking it. It isn't coercion."
I agree with that. All right, we good on okay, how do societal conditioning about gender roles reinforce the power and control dynamics in abusive relationships? And I feel like we did that with economic. So if you want to choose any one of them and say, how does society push that power and control dynamic or that power and control section forward, like from a societal point of view, not necessarily just in the relationship? I'm going to start with minimizing, denying, and blaming, right? I think from a societal perspective, this entire conversation about women being emotional leads to minimizing. I think that very much leads to minimizing because they have put it in women's heads socially, that we are emotional. When they say we're being emotional, it leaves you gaslit, right? And confused. Like, am I making a big deal of it? Is this my emotions? Is this my period that's coming on? Why I feel this way? Is this that? Right? I think that this whole conversation about women being emotional leads to that. It creates a space for minimizing to flourish. Anybody else got any other ones?
No, you ate with that one because for real, that's the name of the game. That's exactly what they're trying to implement right now is a worldwide epidemic where they can actively hush the women up, gaslight us into shutting up, silencing us. That's why so many women in so many different places are being silenced in different ways, right? Where they're basically socially policing each other, banning each other from speaking, whispering, banning women from getting on social media, holding lives like this. That's why, our app is changing before our very eyes as of right now. They're trying to silence all of us, like actively in this very, very moment. So no, you're absolutely right. I can't add anything better.
Thank you. Hey, pretty, welcome up, dear.
Hello, how are you?
Good. We're doing domestic abuse educational live today.
Yes, I really love this. I was listening for both my pages, but I was like, let me come up, because you just asked a really good question. Like what's being used, and I don't know what was already said before. I know you said minimizing, denying, and blaming, but I think children are a common one, but in many different ways. Um, like there's of course withholding and alienation and using his financial standing to say, hey, if this doesn't work out, I'm taking the kids. There's that, which is pretty obvious, right? But I think one big thing is age phobia. Um, and bear with me here. It is my belief that women will stay in very unhealthy situations because they're told that if they do not have a man in the house, their son is going to be GAY, their son is going to be feminine, their son is going to be all the things because he needs a man to raise him. And there's a lot of women who unfortunately fall prey to that. And they will keep their son around abusive men just so that man can learn masculinity, quote unquote, that a child can learn masculinity. And of course, that ends up teaching them the most toxic form of masculinity. But it is I believe that any form of masculinity, no matter how toxic or fragile, is better in a lot of these people's eyes than a son who seems a little bit sweet, right? Like in their eyes. And I think that leads way also to even the adultification over sexualizing of boys and the fact that we don't even protect them in those cases because of the fear of them being GAY. So they're like, well, I'd rather anything happen to them just so they won't be GAY. But I do think that's one of the ways of using children to keep women in very abusive situations, overall with men.
Mm. Mhm.
I agree with that. And I think that to the same point with the age, it's not age phobia, but this idea that if the girl doesn't have a dad, she's going to have daddy issues, right? We hear daddy issues all the time. She's going to end up with daddy issues. She's going to end up with daddy issues. And we've found that women manage their daddy issues way better than we thought that they would. But that's a whole thing too. And you know what's funny is these men do not like it when I ask them back the question, can you be an effective father if you and the mother are not together? Like, is there any value to the 2 days that they spend with you or the 3 days that they spend with you? Is there any value there? Like, and it's funny because they answer both ways. Some of them will say that they can't be an effective father if they're not in the house. And I'm like, why? Why do you need that woman in the house in order for you to be an effective father? Why, if they're spending 30, 40, 50% of their time, that's 100% underneath you, why is that not effective for the tools and skills and lessons that you want to teach? Because you don't actually want to teach any tools or skills. You want to be present and ride off the labor of the woman. That's why you feel like you have to be there. You have to be there so that you can claim some of the benefits. Yep, I was there. Grew up in a 2-parent home, right? You were there. I was there, right? But didn't actually do anything. When they split and they spend time with the dad, he has to actually do something. He has to actually pick the kid up from school. He actually has to go to that parent-teacher conference. He actually has to go to the baseball game. He actually has to learn the things that the kid is involved in. That's why they want to be there in the house. So they don't have to do any of those things and they get to still say they were present.
I think like being a co-parent requires intentionality, and that's the part about it that is too hard. Because to your point, the whole um, working a long hard day on the job on the oil rig and coming home and expecting a foot massage and my big piece of chicken at the head of the table does not require any form of intentionality or effort, right? Because you still get credit for being that quote unquote present dad, even though you were never there. Whereas being a co-parent requires planning, it requires strategy, it requires communication, and it requires effort.
I also want to throw the question out there. How does the media perpetuate the things that we see here? Whether it be music or TV shows, music, TV shows, movies, etc. And do you have an example of one of these scenarios where it was seen to be normal and then later you realize like this is not normal?
I think one of
I
the biggest
think
examples.
with
All right, let me go Pretty and then Hey, only because that's the order in which I heard your voices.
sorry, go.
That's okay.
You're fine. Um, Male privilege, in my opinion, one way that I see this often is weaponized incompetence in just about every family movie there is. Family TV show, all the way back from the beginning of The Simpsons. These husbands were dumb. And that weaponized incompetence was, I think that's what rang true to me because I remember being a kid. Like, so are all husbands stupid? You just don't have any sense? And the mothers had to work overtime to pick up the slack. So, in my opinion, that's the biggest way that showed up when it comes to male privilege.
When you said that, King of Queens came to mind so fast for me.
Yes.
That man was a blundering idiot, and that wife was always annoyed. Also, Everybody Hates Raymond is another great example of a TV show where the husband is an absolute idiot. And if we look at it, I think that a lot of those shows, Malcolm in the Middle, another one, that husband was a complete idiot, right? I think that it normalized the idea that as a wife, you're going to just always be annoyed with your husband. Home Improvement was a great one, right? And when you look at these husbands across these TV shows, they are allowed to continue to be children, literally. They're allowed to be children. They're allowed to tinker with their toys, annoy their wife like if they were their mother, and everybody Loves Raymond was. Did y'all watch that? Did y'all ever watch Everybody Loves Raymond?
Yep.
Really.
The toxicity from Raymond's mom took that shit to a whole nother level. Like, bad enough his wife had to deal with him, but then having the mom constantly coming in, like with the white gloves as if she didn't clean the house good enough, coming in, making it seem like she's not cooking good enough for her husband. Literally not. I mean, the mom might as well, look, I'm over here. I'm not at Pretty Side. The mom might as well fuck Raymond, right? Because she wanted to do everything for Raymond other than fucking. And I feel like if the mom could have sat in on the bedroom, she would have tore that apart too and been like, why didn't you twist his penis while you suck it? Because he likes it like that. That show.
You made me just think about The Simpsons. Homer, he was the worst. Peter Griffin from Family Guy, the absolute fucking worst.
Yeah, I think that we, through media and these TV shows, are absolutely socially conditioned to believe that men can be blundering idiots, and that's okay. Being annoyed with your husband is part of marriage. I think that was a great addition to the conversation. I think that was a great example. All right, y'all. Let's move along. Let's move along a little bit. So I want to add in from, oh, we've got somebody coming up. So let's let them add in first. Welcome up, Diva. Diva, the floor is yours, dear, but whatever you'd like to add in. It looks like you're not on mute, but I don't hear you. So I'm not sure what's going on there. Maybe mute yourself and unmute again. All right, I don't know what's going on there, so I'm going to just go ahead and move along. All right, so what I wanted to bring to us, let me take this off. Let's go here. This is a little article I wanted us to go through on why women stay in abusive relationships. And like I said at the beginning of this, I think it's really important for us to have conversations about why women stay, so that we can either forgive ourselves or be more empathetic to other women. Because the number of times that I have heard women say, well, why did she stay, is unacceptable. It's literally unacceptable, the amount of times that I've heard women say, well, why did she stay? Why didn't she just leave him? And we need to even be careful with, I would never, couldn't be me. All right. I want us to take a little bit of time, a little bit of self-reflecting on couldn't be me. Right? Because couldn't be me is victim blaming. Whether you like to say it or not, whether you like it or not, couldn't be me is victim blaming. And I understand that it couldn't be you, but also all the other contributing factors that led that lady up to the situation that she was in, you didn't have them. That's why. So it didn't have to be you. Right? Can you imagine what it feels like? And I've seen this in my comments before, and I wanted to utilize this moment to check it. Can you imagine that sometimes when we're in these rooms, that right in the room along with you is a woman that has gone through something like what we're talking about, and you go, couldn't be me. What do you think that feels like, and do you think that that's loving? Do you think that that's empathetic? Do you think that that's nurturing? Do you think that that's kind? Do you think that you're helping to bring her to another space, another place of elevation, self-confidence, etc.? When we go through conversations, some of the things that I talk about, I ain't never been through it. Some of the things we talk about, I've never been through it. Right? But we don't need to do could never be me. Right? And I want y'all to take a moment and think about that, especially if you are a could never be me person, in the comments, and ponder, do you think that helped? Yeah, can't relate. All right, so let's move on along. I haven't seen her in a long time. Is there a lady named Psychology Pop on here? I haven't seen her in a long time. I don't know if we fell out of each other's algorithms, or for all I know, maybe she blocked me because I said something. Who knows? TikTok is TikTok. But Psychology Pop is a woman on here. She herself is a psychologist. Her best friend was unalived by her partner, by that lady's partner, right? Her best friend was unalived by her partner. And she used to talk about it a lot. I haven't seen her in a long time. Right, Z? Haven't seen her in a while. I hope that all is well with her. But she would talk about that from time to time. Can you imagine somebody saying it next to her in the room? Couldn't be me when we talk about DV.
Yeah, I feel like when people say couldn't be me, they make the people that have gone through that thing to feel like they're really stupid for going through whatever they've gone through.
Yeah. And I think it lacks the appreciation that it didn't have to be you. That something, whether it was luck, good circumstance, whatever it was, that it didn't have to be you. And I'm not advising y'all to type it into the comments. I'm saying for you to think to yourself, maybe sometimes when we talk about these things and it couldn't be you, maybe the appropriate thought is, I'm glad that didn't have to be me. All right. So I just wanted to clock that and check it real quick in a moment where I haven't seen anybody do it. So it wasn't like a personal attack on anybody.
Yeah,
Huh?
we actually have a mutual on here. Like, I'm not gonna say her name, but her cousin was recently unalived by a partner recently. And this, like, that's why it's so important sometimes to remember that like people are living real lives, like outside of our comments, outside of these conversations that really reflect what is happening in these conversations.
Did everything just go mute?
I feel like nobody had anything to say. That's why the place became quiet.
I think Yellow's
I'm on
talking.
mute.
Hillary.
I was on mute.
Oh,
I was on mute. Listen, y'all know I struggle with the mute button because I always want to mute it so that y'all don't get feedback off of my mic when you talk. So I struggle with the mute button. I'm sorry. All right. So why do women stay in abusive relationships? Fear, love, and control. The answer is far more complex than it may appear. Leaving is rarely as simple as walking away. It's often a decision filled with anger, fear, emotional trauma, and practical barriers. To truly understand women's choices, we must first recognize the often invisible forces that bind them to their abusers. From the outside, people frequently ask, why doesn't she just leave? I'm going to throw it in here that I hear way more questions about why didn't she leave instead of why did he abuse? But let's move along. But this question wrongly places the responsibility on the victim and oversimplifies what can be a life-threatening situation. Women stay in abusive relationships for many interconnected reasons: psychological, emotional, financial, cultural, social, and legal. These pressures create powerful obstacles that make leaving incredibly difficult and in many cases dangerous. Then I got some hotline information there. All right, so what are the main reasons why they stay? Fear of escalated violence. We hear it all the time that the most dangerous time for a woman is when she's pregnant or wants to leave. right? The risk of serious injury or even unalivement is the highest when a woman intends to leave her abuser. Abuse is not just about physical harm, it's about domination and control. And when that control is threatened, the abuser may retaliate with heightened aggression. Research from British Columbia shows that women are 75% more likely to be unalived by their abuser after leaving than when she was still living with him. An estimated 77% of DV related H-sides occur during or shortly after separation. I don't know if y'all remember, but there was a woman that was a creator on this app from Baltimore that was pew down in by her ex-boyfriend in mid daylight. She was a creator on here, right? She used to be in our spaces, and she was pewed in broad daylight by her ex-boyfriend, young girl. I think she was in her early 20s. So the question is always, why didn't you leave? She did leave. Why didn't you get a restraining order? She did. There was a restraining order. He found out where she lived. She came outside to go to the car, and he pewed her there broad daylight. There was also a video of it that was circulating. I saw the video. And then I'm gonna give y'all my opinion real quick on the people with the cameras that are videoing. If something is happening to me, dial 911 and take the video. If there's two people, can one person please dial 911 and the other person take the video? We have so much to say about these people with the videos, but honestly, these videos are the only things that are bringing people to justice. Whether it be justice in the court system or at least bare minimum, social justice, right? I have no beef with the people that take the video, because let me tell you something. The people that they take the video are the people that used to just run away. Taking video is a form of courage. It does take courage to video something, especially something like that. Do you know the risk that that person took to take the video of that the assailant went and turned the pew at them? How dare we say that they're not courageous? They are. God forbid something is happening to me, please let somebody take the video. Because we live in a world where when something happens to a Black woman, when something happens to a woman at all, especially if the assailant is a man, which it most likely is, 95% chance, they want to find ways to let him get away with it. And those videos are the only thing getting people in jail right now. Please take the video. Next, financial dependence. Economic abuse is a powerful weapon of control. Many women are denied access to money, credit, or employment. Their bank accounts may be monitored, their financial literacy undermined, or their debt deliberately increased. As a result, they may feel utterly trapped, unable to afford housing, transport, childcare, or even food. In these situations, leaving isn't a choice between comfort and hardship. It's a choice between survival and destitution. Does anybody have anything they want to add in there before I get to trauma bonding?
So I've heard this a lot, right? Can you hear me well, or am I low?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Um, this one specifically, the whole "why did you leave" conversation. In my opinion, it doesn't matter how many times we explain the fact that the most dangerous time for a woman in a DV situation is when she's trying to leave. It doesn't matter how many examples are given as to how many times women have tried to leave and it's not going well. It doesn't matter when we highlight that actually restraining orders do not protect the woman. They tend to exacerbate the situation, and it makes the man angry and increases the likelihood that she will be harmed, right? It doesn't matter that like all of these things are said to make it very clear that these women have good reason. What I think is happening is if we have to admit that there are simply enough men on this planet who intend women harm, then we can't continue to blame women anymore. We cannot continue this structure that we have right now that says when you are with a trashy man, it's because you chose wrong. When you have sex and he leaves you, it is because you didn't do it the right way. It, I've heard this conversation time and time again where we said, no, this is a thing. Like, this is a problem because it doesn't matter what the woman does. She is in danger because she's with a dangerous man. Like, that's literally, it does not matter how many times it's said. It just falls on deaf ears every single time because the intent is to always blame the woman for her own harm.
So I feel like that's true with men and deep pick me's, right? And because pick me is the default, and women are going through their different phases of deconstruction, I think that this conversation of reminding women why women get stuck in these situations is for those women that were on the fence that needed that last little bit of education to understand. The rest of these motherfuckers, you're right, we ain't never gonna catch them, right? And I think that the best that we can do is to develop the empathy amongst the women that want to be empathetic, that want to understand, and just don't, or they just don't have the knowledge, or they just can't get their mind around it. Like the ones that say can never be me, right? Like we actually can get through to a woman who is in our spaces and still in the could never be me. That woman can be reached, right? And maybe that woman can reach another woman, right? But as far as the vast majority of men, we're never going to reach them. They're never going to care because it's convenient for them to blame the women. Because it means that whatever they do that's bad, they can continue to blame women, right? And the pick me's have to pick not being pick me before they can hear any of these things because I think this is the other thing. I believe that there is comfort in believing that it could never be you. And I believe that in order to fully feel that it could never be you, other than being 4B, if you're out there vetting like a pro, right? And this is why you've been so lucky to be one of the people that have never been hit. You think you're out there vetting like a pro. You need to believe that it's simple to just leave. You need to believe that it's simple to just choose better. And that's why it's never happened to you. Once you get outside of that, you realize you're in danger too. When you get outside of that, you realize that any man can snap, any fucking one of them. I've mentioned it many times and I'll never stop mentioning it whenever it's appropriate. One day I decided to go on Reddit and ask and invite the question, how long does it take for the average abuser to abuse? And the most popular answer was 3 years. And there was a woman on there that said 8 years. Can you imagine being with somebody for 8 years? They never put a hand on you, and 8 years later, they put a hand on you. 8 years in, you are pretty sure that this man is never going to hit you. And it is uncomfortable to believe that it can happen to everybody. It could happen to anybody. Yeah, he yells, but he never put his hands on me. You know what I mean? Like, I don't really have to worry about that. Those kind of problems we don't have. You know, I think that it's an uncomfortable place to sit. That it literally could be anybody. Especially if you are in a relationship with somebody, if you're still actively dating, or if you're married already. I think that's rough. Marlon says an abuser will abuse quicker than that. I literally just said it took 8 years. Let's move along into trauma bonding. And I want to break down trauma bonding a little bit more than what we have here. So trauma bonding is the abusive relationship often follows a destructive pattern known as the cycle of abuse, which we talked about already today, which moves through stages of tension, violence, reconciliation, and calm. The honeymoon phase following the abuse may include apologies, tears, and affection, reinforcing hope that the relationship can be saved. This dynamic can lead to trauma bonding, which is a psychological attachment that makes leaving incredibly difficult. So let's get a definition in here, ladies, and for the few gentlemen that are in here. Trauma bonding is not when two people that have trauma bond. One more again. Trauma bonding is not when two people that have trauma bond. It is specifically the bond between the abuser and the victim. That is trauma bonding. I hear a lot of misuse of that term on here, and then sometimes I don't be wanting to check y'all in public. You know what I mean? And then I mean to do it in the DMs later, but I forget and stuff like that. So just FYI, right? Trauma bonding is not when two people that have trauma bond with each other. Like, oh, he was abused as a child, she was abused as a child, and they found each other and bonded. That's not what trauma bonding is. All right. So if y'all have been using it in that terminology, you've been using it wrong. I've been meaning to get to you, but I just didn't get a chance. Right. All right. The term trauma bonding. Let me go on here. What is trauma bonding and why does it keep victims trapped in abusive relationships? Trauma bonding is a powerful psychological attachment. Oh, okay, so we did that part. Understanding trauma bonding is essential for recognizing its signs and beginning the process of recovery. It isn't just about naming the abuse, it's about regaining autonomy, freedom, and emotional well-being. So I'm going to go down here. So what makes trauma bonding so complex is that it often feels like love. The victim may hold on tightly to the hope that things will improve, especially when periods of kindness or affection follow the abuse. All right. How trauma bonding develops. Trauma bonding doesn't happen overnight. It unfolds through a cycle of manipulation and coercive control that gradually erodes boundaries and self-worth. All right. Number one, love bombing. The relationship begins with intense affection, praise, and promises, making the victim feel valued and special. Right? This is why it's super important that we have an internal space where our value comes from and that we are not dependent on external factors for that. Otherwise, you become it's easier for you to become a victim of love bombing. Love bombing can work on anybody, but it is especially easy to work on someone that does not have an internal space where they feel value from. Okay. Next, devaluation. The abuser starts to criticize, control, or isolate the victim, undermining their confidence. So they're going to build you up and feel special, and you become addicted to that praise. You become addicted to feeling like you feel valued and special. All right. The victim becomes attached to that. And then what happens is the devaluation. So now when they start to add in the criticism, the control, the isolation, the undermining, the victim becomes desperate to get back to the love bombing because the love bombing felt amazing. Okay? So they become addicted to the love bombing. And then when the devaluation comes in, they become desperate to get back to it. Then they have intermittent reinforcement. Occasional kindness is given, just enough to spark hope and emotional relief, reinforcing the attachment. All right. Then we have manipulation and isolation, tactics like gaslighting, blaming self, and social isolation. that deepens the victim's dependence. And what are they dependent on? They're dependent on that feeling of being valued and special that was given at the very beginning. This is deep psychological warfare, y'all. All right. And we need to, and this is why, like, a lot of times on the couldn't be me, I'm like, maybe, right? Because I'll be honest with you, with the way that society is constructed, it's not made for you to have internal value. It's not made for you to feel that value about yourself from the inside. That is something that as women, we literally have to work on and have continuous conversations about. When we think about things like diet culture, the beauty standard, constantly being reinforced that we're not as good as men, constantly the messaging that's constantly being reinforced. That's why spaces like mine, Pretty Intellectuals, and many others that you guys do frequent, and Pretty Intellectual came to mind immediately because she was on the panel. The work that we do in reinforcing those kind of things, even if it is just cooking one of these motherfuckers, and the enjoyment of watching one of them get cooked reinforces the intelligence of women, reinforces that you're not less than simply because you're a woman. And that's actual work that we have to do against the system. All right. So knowing and understanding that the system is always telling us that we belong in the kitchen, that we're not as smart, we can't make as much money, our education doesn't matter. And education is one of the things that we use to fight against the system. And then what do? They combat that with your education doesn't matter. What about your relationship to a man? And if you have not deconstructed, you've not broken out of the pick me mold, and pick me is like the 90,000 rings of pick me, right? You just got the outer shell out, you got another shell to deal with. You get that shell out, you got another one to deal with. The shells of pick meness are infinite. Like no matter how many times you pull off one shell, there's another one inside, right? And so we're always fighting against that. And so falling into this, if you still want love, if you still desire a loving relationship, you still desire to be with a man, you still want that picket fence, you still want that intact family, you still want that, you can fall into this. All right, before I go any further, is there anybody on the panel that wants to speak?
No, I'm just listening, Yellow. I'm getting ready for class.
Oh, no problem. Bevan, you got anything to add?
I don't really understand the trauma bonding, like how it develops.
I didn't hear you clearly, dear.
I said I don't really understand how the trauma bonding develops.
How it does work or how it doesn't work? Oh, how it develops. So again, so you take a woman, which is your average woman, right? You take a woman, which is your average woman, who has been trained that her validation comes from outside of her, right? We all need validation. We all need validation. This is a need. We all need validation, but that validation can be intrinsic, or it could be that you're looking to the outside for getting it. Women, girls, are trained to seek validation from outside themselves. Okay? So you are walking around with this piece missing. Along comes this man offering validation to you, offering you are special, offering affection, offering praise, offering, you are valuable, offering all of those things to you. And you've needed it, right? Because you don't have it from self. So you need it from somewhere else. So now they're giving it to you. Very much like smoking cigarettes or anything else. You become addicted to that because it's a need. Whether you need to either do it from the inside or get it from the outside. And they're giving it to you. So because you become addicted to it, you will now do whatever, like a junkie, you'll do whatever you can do. You will tolerate whatever it is so that you can get your fix. The victim actually becomes a junkie in the situation, right? You will tolerate devaluation. You will tolerate the little criticisms. You will tolerate some of the control. You will tolerate the isolation because, like a junkie, you need your love bombing fix, right? And you're set up already in this society to be a love bomb junkie. I hate using this terminology for it, but I think that it makes make sense more, right? So, like somebody that's a junkie for anything else that's bad for them, they begin to care less about the things that makes it bad because they only care about the high, right? And sooner or later, the high isn't really even happening. You're doing it because you're dependent on the situation. Go ahead, Hatu.
Sometimes the if you faced abuse as a kid or rape as a kid, that can also make you believe as you get older, especially if you've not had therapy or help for that situation when you are an adult. That can make you think those kind of relationships are the ones that you deserve, or that maybe because that's all you know, you kind of run towards those kind of men, even when you may see certain signs, and you stick with it because you're like, well, this is not that. This is not the same thing that happened here. Or even if you've seen your mum be in that kind of relationship, it can make you think, well, this is not similar. Or he said he loved me and my mum never got that from my dad. Or do you know what I mean? I think those things can be linked together.
Yeah, absolutely. Those things can be linked together. Miss Paula, I don't know why you weren't loading. Try and come back up again. So then we have like the intermittent reinforcement, right? So every once in a while, even after they started to criticize and control, they're still seeping in that little bits of kindness, those little bits of promises, those little bits of value, those little bits of special here and there, right? And so this is how this attachment happens, right? So the abuser is getting off getting their abuse, and the victim is getting their little pieces of validation here and there. And sometimes, which is really ugly, the validation is simply from other people being able to say, I got a man. Well, at least I got a man. So even that, without him doing anything, even with him being so cruel, even with him being mean, even with him being abusive, right? She gets validation from society by saying, at least I have a man.
Oh, so that phrase, you're a strong woman, that can also be used to as a weaponization against women to essentially push them into allowing men to do, fucked up shit to them by validating themselves as like strong women for going through it, for doing the thing, for sticking around while he did his thing.
Absolutely.
Okay.
It can be manipulated through religion too, right? Like, our marriage went through all of these things and I stayed, and because the kids, because the this, because the that. So then it becomes being validated as a good woman, right? So you even can get those validations from other people outside of even the relationship for having a relationship that lasted. Ooh, Miramel brings up the pastor with the wife in the green dress. That's a lady that was ironing his clothes for him to go see his mistress, right? She feels validated that she was a good wife, that she endured. Look at how good you are because you endured, right? So religion does that too, where you're getting this validation from somewhere simply for staying. I've even heard somebody say leaving is easy, staying is hard. Y'all ever heard that before? Leaving is easy, staying is hard.
No, most definitely. I've heard that so many times. Like, getting together is easy. Divorcing is easy, but staying married is, what the strong people do. Like, you're strong if you stay in a broken marriage. You're strong if you stay in an abusive marriage.
Let me also add to it that they don't have it up here. Embarrassment, right? So let's say you've got a boyfriend, he's love bombing you, whatever, but like your girls, your homegirls, your sisters, your mother, your aunties, whoever it is, they're clocking that shit like, nah, this nigga is not it, right? He's not it. Now you are fighting them, right? No, you don't know what he does for me. You don't know how he treats me this way. You're not there when he does this, and you're not there with whatever. And when you finally get to the place where you're like, shit, this nigga ain't it, the embarrassment of now wanting to leave him and not being able to prove, you don't want to prove the other people right. Now you got to double down because you were fighting all the people that was telling you like, this nigga ain't it. You don't want them to be right because you fought them with everything that you had. No, you just don't understand. You don't know him. You're jealous. Nah, nah, nah. You wish you had a man that did whatever it is. That's why you're talking bad about him, right? When you're done with all of that, how do you now say y'all were right? Y'all were right. This nigga ain't been shit the whole time. I'm 2 kids in and he ain't shit. And I just fully came to the realization. And the reason she didn't realize it is because he was intermittently reinforcing. He was intermittently giving her love. He was intermittently giving her attention and affection in between the abuse. Because people have this thought of when a woman is in an abusive relationship, that it's bad every day. That there were no loving moments. That there were no good days. That there were no, y'all all went to the park and things went fine. Or y'all all went to the beach and things went well. Those days exist in between. That there was no good love making that happened in between. That there was no laughter. And it's because of these intermittent moments in between that it becomes difficult for her to leave. Because socially, we're told you should stay. You're going to have ups and downs.
Weigh the good for the bad. How much good does he do for you versus the bad? They'll tell us shit like that just so we'll, like, in our minds, try to minimize the things that he does that is bad just so we can see the good through it.
Yep.
And that's how a lot of us end up getting stuck too.
Absolutely. And then he has the weapon of, don't you remember when we went to the beach? Don't you remember when we did this? Don't you remember when I massaged your back? Don't you remember all of these don't you remembers, because the don't you remember moments are actually real. And when it comes to talking about DV and comes to talking about these relationships, we rarely have the conversation to talk about these moments that are enjoyable, that did go well in between. And because we don't talk about that existing in the relationship, people on the outside, when we talk about DV, think that every day is bad. Why didn't you leave? All right. Anybody has anything else to add in before I move a little further into the trauma bonding conversation and the symptoms? Bevan, did that like close it up for you on how it develops? Okay, I see the yes in the comments. Perfect. All right. So what are some symptoms of trauma bonding? Recognizing trauma bonding is the first step to breaking free. And it literally is something, breaking free was the right terminology they used right there. Feeling unable to leave the relationship even after repeated abuse. A sense of panic or despair at the thought of ending the relationship. Inability to envision a future without the abuser. Rationalizing or minimizing the abuser's behavior. Halo just gave us that one, right? That minimizing the abuse. Making excuses to others for the abuser's actions. And I just gave that one, right? Persistent hope that things will get better despite evidence to the contrary. Emotional dependency and isolation from friends or family. Believing that the abuse was somehow your fault. Internal conflict between knowing the abuse is wrong and craving the abuser's approval. And they're craving that abuser's approval because of that first step, that love bombing, right? Where I say it almost becomes like an addiction kind of situation. Like you want that praise from them, you want that affection from them, right? You're withdrawing from loved ones who express concern. Going into that internal conflict, literally, you will see. And I ain't trying to pull nobody's card, and I'm not trying to trigger anybody. So trigger warning, right? Trigger warning. Take your deep breath before I say the thing. Most women who were abused, inside that abuse, had some, be careful, had some breakdown moment where they were crying, not crying. Why won't you love me? Why won't you love me? Why won't you do this? Why won't you do that? Right? And the reason that they're having that breakdown moment is because they're
Young yellow.
huh?
Don't be calling me out, yellow.
I'm calling myself out too. Right? That breakdown moment of why won't you love me or why won't you love me the right way, whereas all snot coming out your nose and it's ugly. It's an ugly cry. It's an ugly cry. Right? That is the internal conflict between knowing the abuse is wrong and craving their approval. That's what's happening in that moment. You actually already know that you should leave. But you don't want to, right? And you know that the only rational way for you to stay is for them to change. And you are emotionally losing it because you want them to change desperately so you can stay.
I think that is so true, and that is what my sister said to me about her relationship. That because she didn't tell us a lot of things that was happening, and she was like, it's because she didn't want us to not like him. Obviously, she was in love with him, and she wanted him to change. So whenever they apologize and they make you feel guilty for something, it's like, oh well, he's changing until the next time it happens. And then obviously that is the like cycle that you figure out once you have left that actually they was never going to change, otherwise they would have changed, and they didn't because they didn't want to. However, like they they know what they are doing, and they know they shouldn't be doing it, but they do it because it makes them, get validation or whatever it is out of carrying on this relationship.
Not only the validation, it gives them all the power. Once we do that, they have all the power to carry on doing all the things that they want to do, being as abusive and manipulative as they possibly can, because us coming back and begging for them to love us, we're essentially setting ourselves up for failure.
And I don't know that I want to say you're setting yourself up for failure. I think you're going through the process of getting to understanding that you have to leave. I think that's not pride. Why won't you love me? Or why won't you love me like this? Actually has to happen in order for you to break free.
So you don't think mentally, even if we are like slowly but surely preparing ourselves to leave, we're not putting ourselves in a sort of like mental crisis, continuously dealing with this person, even though in the back of our head we're like, yeah, this isn't good for me, but I really don't want to leave. I really love this person, and he's telling me he's going to do better. Okay, I'm going to let him do better. And then he gets to put me in this position where he can gaslight me even more, yet again, on top of the previous gaslighting, therefore putting me in a kind of like foggy mental state, a state of numbness, right?
Yes.
And we're constantly allowing ourselves to yet again be put in this position to be their punching bag, because they'll love bomb us and then they'll turn around and do the thing again.
Yeah. But I think, I don't know. I think that once you've gotten entangled into it, once you have actually trauma bonded with somebody, I don't think you can break free without that "why won't you love me" thing. Because that, if you've ever experienced it, and I would bet that a good percentage of the people that are in here, the women that are in here, have had that moment. You ain't got to admit it. You know what I'm saying? Some of you have. You don't have to. It's okay. I think that feeling, that how horrible that feeling is when you have that breakdown moment, is something that you can grab back to. One of the things that I say is that people don't change until the pain of changing the pain of not changing is greater than the pain of change. I'll say it one more time. I always say it twice. People do not change until the pain of not changing is greater than the pain of change. Because change in and of itself is difficult, and breaking up with somebody is a life change, right? If y'all have children together, it's definitely going to be a change.
I've been there. You're correct, because I've been there myself, for sure. The pain of not changing is greater than the change. Oh hell yeah! Then you're in a fight or flight type of mindset.
Yep. Then you're like, I have to go because this is entirely too painful. So until you get there, I don't think that you can break free, because you need a moment to go to that is worse than all the good things, right? That feels worse than all the good things felt. So I don't necessarily think that moment is a bad moment. I think it becomes a reference. Because when you get stuck inside of the trauma bond, you keep referring to the good places. You keep referring to that day at the beach. You keep referring to how they were there for you under some circumstance. You had somebody close to you pass away and they were there for you that day. You keep referring to those good spaces. So you end up needing something that is so terrible, that feels so terrible, that you have that to refer to.
No, you're absolutely right. And we can actually extend that to just simply one losing themselves, right? Because it doesn't even always have to look like actual mental or physical abuse, you can just start losing who you are to somebody like love bombing and gaslighting you to basically unalivement. And that right there is abusive in itself.
Absolutely. All right. Psychology behind the trauma bonding, which I think we've kind of jumped into that a little bit. I hope I'm not offending anybody when I'm using the terminology like, saying that you're a junkie for it, because I'm telling y'all, I also was there. So this is not me standing on the outside being judgmental. This is me putting it in language that just makes sense so that we can truly understand when women go through this, what is happening, right? So, psychology behind the trauma bonding. To truly grasp why trauma bonding is so potent, we need to look at its neurological and psychological underpinnings and understand the brain's chemical trap. Trauma bonding mimics addiction, like I said before, right? When the abuser offers affection or apology, the brain releases dopamine, same chemical triggered by addictive substances. When abuse occurs, stress hormones like cortisol spike, creating a painful emotional crash. The victim is then rewarded again with moments of relief, reinforcing the cycle. This is very, very much like somebody that had a high and then a crash and then got high again. All right? Prolonged exposure to abuse causes emotional confusion that overrides survival instincts. The desire for connection becomes stronger than the drive for safety. I'm going to read that one more again. Prolonged exposure to abuse causes emotional confusion that overrides survival instincts. The desire for connection becomes stronger than the drive for safety. I'm going to pause right there and see if anybody wants to respond or react to that.
I
Okay.
don't even want to talk about that shit. That shit's so fucking triggering for me because I think that's what I went through a while back.
I'm sorry to hear that, Hans. And I think that I think if we're prepared to view it in this way, it's helpful. I think if you're not prepared to view it in this way, it's probably very, very painful, or maybe even wanting to resist looking at it from that perspective. But truly, there is a dopamine release followed by the cortisol spike and then another dopamine release. And this is how you get stuck in it in a very addicting kind of way. And it also explains women going back, which is another conversation.
Would that include like partaking in friendships that weren't so healthy for you? Like not even just relationships, but even friendships, just to have a human and emotional connection with people. Yep.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. And I brought that in earlier when we were talking about the cycle of abuse, that this can also exist in friendships.
Mm-hmm.
This can exist in friendships. This can exist in familial relationships, right? Because that emotional confusion is there and it's overriding our drive for safety, right? Because being emotionally abused by a friend or being emotionally abused by a family member is not safe. It's not emotionally safe. And if being around a particular person just continuously puts you in feelings of pain, feelings of confusion, feelings of injustice, then you're not emotionally safe in that space. And particularly with the friend one, it may not be on purpose. They may be not even knowing that they're doing it, because when we think about abuse, and I'm telling you, like I told you I recently had a situation with somebody that is a friend, and they sent me a message that was very abusive. When I told them that it was abuse, they were in shock. Like, that's not abuse. Yeah, it is. It is abuse. Right? Yeah. All right. So childhood experiences may also play a significant role. If someone grew up in a home, and here's to Hetu's point, if someone grew up in a home where love was conditional, chaotic, or unpredictable, they may unknowingly recreate similar dynamics in adulthood. Now, if we take this sentence and put it back into the first sentence, prolonged exposure to abuse causes emotional confusion that overrides survival instincts. Well, that prolonged exposure to abuse may have been your childhood. It may not have even been this relationship that you're in. Because you're like, well, why did you even stay long enough for it to become prolonged exposure? The prolonged exposure may have predated the relationship to begin with. This is referred to as traumatic attachment, a broader concept than trauma bonding, but deeply intertwined. When faced with conflicting realities, this person says they love me versus this person hurts me. I'm going to pause right there. When faced with conflicting realities, this person says they love me versus this person hurts me. The brain seeks resolution. Victims often side with the abuser's narrative to reduce mental discomfort, especially when self-esteem has been systemically eroded. I'm gonna
But
pause
that's
right
like
there.
what we were talking about. That's like what we were talking about a bit earlier, what I was saying about when the little kids are in school and in like nursery and stuff, and they're hitting, and then they're being told that, you know, it's okay, boys will be boys. And then they're growing up thinking this is just how men act violent, men do this, men do that, and then putting all the onus on the woman that she should be changing or doing certain things to not make the man do this.
Agreed. I want to run back to this sentence that is on. He says he loves me, or they say they love me versus they hurt me, right? Especially in the situation of romantic relationships. Which answer do we prefer, right? So here you are. You've got conflicting realities. This person says they love me versus this person hurts me. Which one do I prefer the answer to be? Y'all go ahead and answer. Answer on the panel or answer all in the comments. Which answer do you think you emotionally prefer the answer to be?
Let's say the second one.
You prefer that he hurts me?
I love you.
The loved one. Yeah. The positive one. We prefer that to be the answer. And until we understand completely that we prefer that to be the answer, regardless of which one is the reality, because actually both of them are reality, right? It's conflicting realities. They're both reality. He is saying that he loves you. That's real. He is saying it, right? And he is hurting you, but they don't work together. I have to choose one. Emotionally, you want to choose that they love you. You want to choose, I am loved. You don't want to choose, I'm someone that could be hurt. You don't want to choose, I'm someone that someone else views as someone they're allowed to hurt or someone that deserves hurt. I want to choose The person said they love me. They love me. I like that one. Let's go with that. And this is why it's really important to really dissect what's happening in the mind of the woman during the time that they are stuck there, during the time that they're traumatically bonded. I told y'all today, just a little bit of triggering today, not as bad as the other one, right? Today is empathy growing. Today is for empathy growing and forgiving ourselves. Right? Depending if you are somebody that has been, actually, truth be told, I don't know anybody that's not been abused. Let's be honest, right? Everybody's been abused in one way or another, whether it's been in the romantic field, may have been physical, or may have just been emotional. All right. So understanding why you stayed through that, why you stayed so long, why you stayed, whatever, it's to be validating a little bit. All right. How to break free. Acknowledge the trauma bond. Recognize that the emotional connection is rooted in trauma, not love. This awareness is the foundation of healing. This awareness is very difficult. This is probably the hardest of all of the things that are on this list, is to recognize that the emotional connection is rooted in trauma, not love, because that means that it's all been a lie. And that's not easy to conceptualize, especially when we're going back to thinking about the happy moments. What do you mean that wasn't love? It felt like love. We were smiling, we were laughing. He was validating me, I was validating him. The love making was so good. How dare you say that this was not love? This was love. If this wasn't love, what the fuck is love? Right? So getting to that space to actually admit that this was not love opens up a lot of other things and a whole nother Pandora's box of reality that you may not want to face. And that, again, is why it's difficult. This is an extremely hard hump to get over. How they got it listed here, like step 1, do, step 2, do, without really giving the value to how difficult it is to say. Look, Noni says, like, why did I accept that as love? Now you got what is love. Now
And we mostly do that shit when it comes to the financial aspect of the conversation. We kind of conceptualize love with them taking care of us. Oh, if he didn't love me, he wouldn't have paid all the bills. He wouldn't have bought us a house. He wouldn't have made sure that my hospital bills was paid when I got so and so disease or whatever. You know what I'm saying? Or I had to have a kidney removed or some bullshit like that. Oh well, he loves me because my car went down and he got it fixed for me. So that's how I know he loves me, even though he does all the rest of the harmful things in the book. It's okay because I know he loves me because he pays for everything.
Now, for those of you that are willing, and if you don't have to be willing, for those of you that are willing, take a moment and go back to that relationship and give me the, if he didn't love me, he wouldn't have. I'll tell you, for me, if he didn't love me, he wouldn't have been by my side when I was in the hospital. If he didn't love me, he wouldn't have stood up for me against somebody that was someone else that was causing me harm. Those are two for me for sure. And if y'all are willing, and if you want to go back to that place and think about what had you stuck there, what was the, if he doesn't love me, that you said to yourself, why you stayed longer? And again, that's a lot, right? It's a lot. But seeing that we've got, if he didn't love me, he wouldn't have moved in with me. Somebody's asking me what website in the article. I'll scroll up to the beginning. When I get to the end, I'll scroll up to the beginning and then you can just screenshot it and you'll have it. Okay. don't have a whole lot of them in the comments, and that's all right. Let's move through the other steps. Okay, if he didn't love me, he wouldn't have stayed. Yeah. If he didn't love me, he wouldn't have trusted me with caring for his child. Right? We have to become cognizant of the mind fuck that we give ourselves. And once we become cognizant of the mind fuck that we gave ourselves in the past, we'll be able to notice it when you're doing it in the future. All right. So next one, which is a little bit easier, I think, now than it was years ago. Seek support. Reach out to trusted friends, family, or survivor support groups. Speaking to a trauma-informed therapist can help untangle the emotional confusion and rebuild your sense of self. I think that that's super important, whether it's support groups, friends or family members, but not the ones that are going to send you back into the bullshit, right? And that's also like a really dangerous place and space, because pick me is the default setting, right? So you listen, identify in your friend group who is that person that's just going to tell you the truth whether you like it or not. If you have somebody in your friend group that's the one that tells you the truth whether you like it or not, that's a very important person. That is actually the person that you need right now. You need that one, okay? Not the one that's going to send you back into the bullshit. Not the one that makes excuses for you. Not whatever. You need that lady. Y'all know in your own circle who that lady is. That might be your mama. That might be your bestie. That might be your cousin. It might be the other girl in a friend group that's not even really your bestie, right? Like you got a friend group and it's the one that you're not even necessarily the closest to. That's the one that you actually need to, that you need. So I've got, if he didn't love me, he wouldn't have said that he does, right? And that's honing in on how good it felt just to even hear the words. Like if your love language is words of affirmation, if your love language is words of affirmation, it's really going to dig deep. Just literally just saying the words. That's it, just the words. All right. So seeking support is next part of breaking free. Educating yourself. So even like lives like this, knowledge is power. Understanding the cycle of abuse and the tactics used by abusers can help you regain control. They give a recommendation for reading Why Does He Do That? And also The Body Keeps the Score. I've read neither of those, so I can't tell you that I'm giving you that recommendation, but the recommendation is there in the article. Build a safety plan. If physical safety is a concern, I probably would put that again above educating yourself. If physical safety is a concern, please read the following two articles. Your emergency bag checklist for leaving an abusive relationship, and steps that women should take when feeling threatened or unsafe. And we can bring up emergency bag checklist. Actually, I'm probably not going to do that today. Practice self-care, reclaim your identity by investing in activities that restore your confidence and self-worth, such as exercise, journaling, or creative hobbies, and cut contact. This is so important, and it's also probably as hard as number one. You need to go no contact. They put or implement strict boundaries. I guess that one applies like if you share children. This may include blocking phone numbers and social media accounts, especially if the abuser uses them to manipulate or guilt trip. Cutting contact is really difficult, especially if we're looking at it from the sense of being the victim is an addiction. I can have potato chips in my house and them shits will sit there until they go rotten, but I cannot have sweet treats in my house. if I'm trying to lose weight. Okay? Ain't no way. You cannot have chocolate cake in my house. You can't, none of that shit can be in here. And that's the same thing with the no contact thing, right? Because if you remain with the contact thinking that, oh, and remember, this is someone you were attached to, regardless of how they felt about you, you loved them. You as the victim did love them. So you're curious, well, is he doing better? Is he doing okay? What happened with his mom who got cancer? I wonder what happened with his kids, right? Because sometimes them kids of theirs can get you sucked back in, right? You fell in love with the kid too. Well, I'm wondering how Junior is doing. I'm wondering how little Princess is doing. You know, are they okay? Are they whatever? And so all it takes is that one conversation and boom, you suck back in, right? And believe me, they will utilize that contact to start back at the beginning with the honeymoon stage, with the compliments. They're going to tell you that life isn't life without you, that they made a big mistake, that they wish that they had treated you better, that they know better now, right? They're going to use that contact to honeymoon you again. They're not going to use that contact to be nasty to you. They're not going to
Yeah,
remind you in that moment why you left. Go ahead.
that's why they're the main ones that tries to like weaponize forget phrases like forgive and forget, let the past be the past. You know what I'm saying? Because they use that as their in with the women that they previously already abused and been in abusive relationships with, to bait them into coming back as another one. People change. You know what I'm saying? They use a lot of these common phrases to, again, like I said, bait the women back in to, their abusive relationship again. It's been actually seen done several times where the woman would essentially escape for a little bit of time, a couple months, maybe a couple of years, and then later on down the line, they'll hit you with the, oh yeah, well, I've changed, I've done the work, I've done this, I've done that, and the approach would essentially feel a bit different, which always, the bait and switch. We've seen it time and time again, and then they'll pull them lines. Well, just forget about the past. Let's move forward. Let's start anew,
Yeah,
and then you'll give it a chance because it's in our nature to try to see the good in people, to give people second chances.
yeah,
Our I don't know how, it's stupid to me, but women are more socialized to give people second chances.
yeah,
But go ahead, Yellow. My bad.
yeah. No, you're fine. Um, I love the interaction and not just me up here doing a whole what's it called? A whole lecture by myself. Um, but you're right. Like we have been socialized to give people second chances. We have been socialized so deeply to give second chances that they have actually convinced us that if you don't do forgiveness, you are a bad person.
No, you're absolutely correct. You're absolutely correct. And that's why a lot of times for us black women, it'll look like them basically saying we're too headstrong, we're too disobedient, um, we're too masculine, right? Because when we see a thing and we start putting our foot down, a lot of us won't look back, and that pisses the men off. When we don't allow them to have the space and the opportunity to get that second chance to do the thing, that pisses them off even more.
Yeah. And it pisses them off, and there's a whole guilt associated with it, right? Like, why can't you just forgive me? Why can't you just forgive him? That can even come from outside factors. When my kid's father and I broke up, years afterwards, girl, years, this man was married to a whole nother woman. His mama called me on the phone and asked me why I couldn't just forgive her son. Years afterwards. Ma'am, I was married to someone else. He was married to someone else. And this lady literally on whatever day morning it was, I distinctly remember when it happened. This lady called me on the phone and said, why couldn't I just forgive her son for the children?
And I would have said, "Lady, bye," and I would have flip phone, hung up the phone on her
Oh, what I did was much worse.
ass.
What I said was much
what you
worse.
what you what you do, Yellow?
I'm going to tell you what I said to her, sent her crying, and then her daughter had to call me.
Oh shit.
I told her,
That's enough said. Enough said.
you want to know? I told her that maybe if she had stood up in her relationship, her son would have had a better father situation, and her son wouldn't have treated me the way that her husband treated her.
All I'm gonna say is emotional damage. Damn, Yellow. Not you ate her ass up for one time and then went on about your fucking business. I'm tired of you. Why you always messing with these people?
Ma'am, let me tell you, I distinctly remember what I was doing. I was taking the curtains down from my younger son's room to put them in the wash. That's what I was doing in my house. That's what I was doing in my house. Minding my motherfucking business. And you decided wherever you were and whatever thoughts you were going through that you wanted to call me on the phone after I'm remarried and he's remarried to ask me why I didn't give your son another chance for the children. I said, well, maybe if you didn't let your husband treat you the way that he treated you, your son went to grow up watching it and he wouldn't have thought that he could do it to me.
Miriam almost made me choke. She said, "Legend has it, she still walks with a limp to this very day." ah, diabolical cousin. Stop it. Like President Obama said, stop it.
I mean, she could have just left me alone doing my damn curtain laundry. You know what I mean? You wanted to smoke. Now you mad that there's a fire.
Yellow said, "Okay, I'm gonna choose violence."
Listen, I am a Scorpio through and through. I don't bother nobody unless you bother me first. Okay? And then if you bother me and you get stung with a tail full of venom, don't go running around crying, "Oh, I was just playing with the scorpion and it stung me." Ma'am.
That should be hilarious. I love watching y'all Scorpios in action. Scorpios and Tauruses, y'all be diabolical with the comebacks.
But
Y'all
it's
do.
always a comeback, right? It's not aggressive. It's never the aggression. It's never like
No,
I'm
it's
sitting
never.
in
Y'all
my
never
house and
the
just being
aggressor.
like,
Y'all be
you know what? Let
chilling.
me just call somebody and fuck up their day. No.
No, y'all be chilling, and then people will come and say some crazy shit in your direction, and then y'all be like, "Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and match their energy."
And multiply. I'm gonna match your energy and multiply. Because here's the thing: what happens with Scorpios is that we notice things that are fucked up and we don't say nothing about it. We'd be like, all right, well, I noticed the thing. What can I do? That's just what it is. And because we never said nothing about it, you think we didn't notice it.
They think they sliding.
Yeah, you thought you
Absolutely
slid
not.
through. Like I would have never told. I would have unalived and never told that lady that. I would have never told that lady that. You think I didn't notice that shit years before? It was years that I had noticed that shit. And I was just like, this shit mirrors exactly what his daddy did to his mother. And here I am living out his mother's marriage in my marriage. And when I actually looked at what happened, and for her, it never ended. That man in his 70s and he's still behaving that way. Okay? For her, it literally never ended. And because it happened the first time with him, I was like, I believe, like your daddy, this shit is never going to end. Now, I thought that because we had conversations and things like that, that those things would never happen. But once it happened the first time, I was like, oh, this is going to be never ending with you if I stay, because that's what you learned. And honestly, his daddy is the reason why he never got a second chance. And I hope his daddy never say nothing to me to make me have to tell him that. I hope his daddy never say nothing to me to make me have to tell him that you're actually the reason why your son never got a second chance. Because his parents loved me. His parents adored me. Right? And what happened is that I made it important in my marriage to keep him and our children connected to them. I made it important in our marriage. I made it important that we made it to Sunday dinner at their house. I made it important that when they moved an hour away, we still went at least twice a month to hang out with them. I made it important that we were there for dinner, and I made it important that we never forgot to bring the wine. I made it important that his dad's favorite wine was always in my bag. I made it important that the kids rotated Christmas at his parents' house, whether I came or not. I made it important in our marriage that the generation below them and the generation below that did not lose their attachment to them. And they knew that, and that's why they loved me. And the new wife didn't care about that shit. I bet you the new wife said something or did something that made them feel detached from him and detached from the kids, because he has kids with the new wife too. And she was sitting in her house fuming and was like, Yellow would never, and decided to call me and be like, why didn't you give my son a second chance? Ma'am, if you don't go ahead with that shit and mind your business, why didn't you tell your son not to be like that to start with? Anywho, let's move along. Why does leaving feel so hard? Many victims describe withdrawal symptoms after ending a trauma bond, like detoxing from a drug. You may feel grief, emptiness, or craving the abuser's presence. There are also fears of retaliation or a deep-seated sense of guilt or shame, especially if children are involved or if cultural or societal norms pressure the victim to stay. But remember, freedom from abuse is not betrayal of love. It's an act of radical self-respect. That's a beautiful quote. All right. And I do think that guilt and shame play a part, and they very much play a part. I'm going to give it from the Black perspective. I imagine it's the same thing in the YT community, but they're not my community. They're not my business. But I think that when we talk about life as a Black woman, being with a Black man, there is this added responsibility to care for him in a way that makes up for racism. One more again. I think that as Black women, they have added the responsibility to us to care for Black men in a way that makes up for racism. And then as a woman, without being Black, regardless of race, there is a responsibility to care for men in a way that makes up for their abuse. Right? So as Black women, we got both. Miramel said that's a lot. Yeah. And so when we walk out on a Black man, when we abandon a Black man, we have the added guilt that we did not care for him in a way that made up for racism. And now he's out there dealing with the racism all by himself. Now he's out there dealing with his abuse all by himself. Shanice said, woo, child. And I do think that a lot of the anger that Black women feel right now is because they were never told to care for us in a way that makes up for racism.
No,
Somebody said
you are
that's the first time
absolutely,
that they're
you
hearing
are
that one.
absolutely right.
That was from me in just this moment right now. Somebody said that's the first time I heard that one. Listen, it just came to me right now in this moment. So I don't know if somebody else said it or thought it
No,
another
just
time,
thinking
but
about it, just really thinking about it, Yellow. No, you're absolutely right because I think if the black men and you know our men, quote unquote, I hate saying that shit, but if they treated us better, if they knew how to love us, love the children, love the community, I think they would feel differently about the black woman. They would see a different side of the black woman. We wouldn't be being oppressed and attacked by all sides. So they would essentially get to see a happier version of us, but they don't even want to try. So we're just out here basically in survival mode all the fucking time, but they expect us to do it with a smile on our fucking face.
so I had never put it to words before literally just this moment just now. That there's an expectation of Black women to love Black men in a way that makes up for racism. But I'll tell you the first time I felt it, but never put words to it. It was that damn TV show where Diana Ross's daughter plays the mom. The hell is this show?
You talking about either Blackish or
Blackish. That's it
not
right there.
Grownish,
It's Blackish.
color and not colorish,
No, it's Blackish.
something.
Blackish. That's the show.
Cause she had
Blackish.
okay.
There's an episode on Blackish where I don't know if it's his mother that was there. It was his mother. So his mother was there and she was talking about how she would plate her husband's food with love and care when he came home, understanding the racism that he faced out there in the world, and the what's it called, the catering that she would do for him because she knew what he went through out in the world. Now, I'm going to tell you that I don't necessarily take issue with that if you are in a loving reciprocal relationship. I'm not anti-catering to people, right? But catering has to be both ways. Bevan says she remembers it, right? I remember watching that scene and thinking to myself, what does he do for you to care for you to make up for the racism that you feel? Yes, she was talking about Diana Ross's daughter fixing a plate for her husband. Yep. And again, like I said, I don't have an issue. I think it's beautiful to do things for each other that feel catering, right? If running your bath makes you feel loved and catered to, then he should run your bath. If making his plate makes him feel loved and catered to, then make his plate. If warming your car in the morning makes you feel loved and catered to, then he should warm your car in the wintertime. If you see, like, but there's things like these acts of service have to be reciprocal, right? They have to be reciprocal and they can't be rooted in this space of it's because I'm the man and that's why you're supposed to do it. No, you're not supposed to do it because you're supposed to do it. You're supposed to do it because this is something loving and caring that you do for this person to make them feel special, loved, and catered to. But that person needs to do things that make you feel loved and special and catered to. And if that is not the case, then I don't want to fucking talk about making nobody's goddamn plate. right? And so, those, that's neither here, but I remember very much that scene because there was nothing in that conversation about what he used to do for her. Or if it was, it didn't stick out to me. I don't know. Maybe I'm remembering it wrong, but I remember when I heard her say that, being triggered into what does he do for you that makes up for racism outside. Somebody said, yep, sadly, nowadays men turn acts of service into obligations. All right, y'all. I want to do a little video on gaslighting, and then we're going to probably wrap it up for the evening. I hope everybody that has been here for whatever amount of time that you've been here felt like you learned something, experienced something, felt something, because it's, it's not one of the chaos lives. I love a chaos live. Y'all know how, I love a chaos live. But sometimes it's important for us to just do the self-healing lives, the lives that bring understanding to ourselves and understanding to other women. But I'm going to do this one. Let's see here. All right. Okay, perfect. All right, so we got this lady. She's going to talk to us about gaslighting and what gaslighting is so that we can stop misusing the word out in the world. I hear a lot of y'all be calling things gaslighting. That's not gaslighting. So let's listen to what gaslighting actually is. I'm going to play this because I've seen it already, and I'm going to go run pee whilst it's playing. So y'all, we ain't going to be able to pause it because I got to go. Y'all know me and my bladder. All right, here we go.
Have you ever been in a relationship where you feel like you're going crazy? And I'm not talking about the nice type of crazy in love feeling. I'm talking about painfully feeling like there's something wrong with you, like you are literally crazy. Or maybe you've been accused of making someone feel this way. If so, you might have experienced gaslighting, a harmful tactic that leaves people with long-lasting effects on their mental health. Hi, my name is Daniela and I am a licensed therapist. Today we're going to talk about gaslighting, a term that's been thrown around lately, but do we actually know what it is? In this video, I'm going to talk about the definition of gaslighting. I'm going to teach you how to spot it. I'm going to talk about why people do it, what to do if you're a gaslighter, and what to do if you are a victim of gaslighting. So let's get started. Gaslighting is a form of psychological manipulation where a person seeks to create seeds of doubt on someone else or even in a group of people. As an outcome, the victim may feel as they have to question their own sanity, memory, perception, and morals. In case you're interested about the history of this term, gaslighting comes from the 1944 American film Gaslight, which was based on the 1938 British theater play Gaslight by Patrick Hamilton. In the story, the husband manipulates his wife by dimming the gas lights in their home and then denying that the light's level had changed, causing her to doubt her own perception. Interesting, right? Gaslighting is not limited to romantic relationships. It can happen in all types of relationships. So mother to child, co-workers, family members, you call it. Something that I want you to keep in mind is that people that gaslight or people that hear a story of gaslighting sometimes will minimize the situation and think that it's not a big deal. But the effects of gaslighting can be severe. Victims of gaslighting are going to experience a lot of anxiety, depression, and even PTSD. So this is not a joke. I want to give you some real-life examples on gaslighting so you can learn how to spot it. In the context of a relationship with a mother and a child, gaslighting may involve the mother denying or dismissing the child's emotions or experiences, causing the child to doubt their own feelings. In the context of a romantic relationship, Gaslighting may involve a partner denying that they said or did something hurtful, making the other partner feel like they're going crazy. I have a particular example from a client where her boyfriend was cheating on her with her mother's best friend. And although my client had some solid evidence and suspicion about this affair, every time she would present it to her boyfriend, the boyfriend will call her bluff and say that she was crazy, that her ideas were bizarre, and he would technically deny and dismiss and deflect from every conversation she tried to have with him. This happened for months until my client finally saw them with her own eyes kissing, and then that's when she realized that she wasn't crazy, she was actually right. Her boyfriend was gaslighting her. I hope that these examples make you see that gaslighting may take many forms, but the key element here is that the gaslighter is trying to undermine the victim's reality. Now, why does it happen? Why do people gaslight? Gaslighting can be caused by a variety of factors, such as a desire for control or a lack of empathy. In some cases, gaslighters may have experienced gaslighting themselves and are simply replicating the behavior they learned. Maybe their parents treated them this way and this is all they know. Now, from the perspective of a victim, keep in mind that gaslighting can happen to anyone. However, there are more vulnerable groups, and those are people that have low self-esteem, that have been victims of trauma themselves, so they're used to these type of patterns, and it feels very familiar to be with someone that's gaslighting them. Or people who are already in a position of vulnerability. Maybe they're constrained to having to spend time with this person. Maybe they don't have the financial means to leave this person. Or maybe they have never been out and about and know that there are other people out there that are going to treat them with the respect they deserve. What to do if you are a gaslighter? First, I want to say it's okay, don't feel ashamed, these things happen. As I said earlier, maybe you're used to this pattern. Maybe you haven't been aware that you do these things. Maybe you are yourself a victim of trauma and you saw this between your parents for years and now you're doing it to other people without realizing that it's toxic and unhealthy. So my first recommendation to you is that you try to look at your life story and find out why you do this. Where does it come from? What's the root of this behavior? Second, take accountability and responsibility for your actions. Go ahead and say I'm sorry, talk about it, explain to your partner or to whomever that you have this problem and you want to be more conscious of it. You need to recognize that gaslighting is a form of emotional abuse and one that really leaves marks on people, so this needs to stop. Finally, please seek out therapy. It's going to be very helpful for you to share your life story and examples with a professional that's going to reassure you, that's going to validate you, and that's going to help you to find coping skills and strategies so you can stop this behavior. And also keep in mind that if you do this work, you're going to have flourishing and beautiful and healthy relationships. Because I'm sure that if you're a gaslighter, you're not experiencing any of that. If you're a victim of gaslighting, it can be difficult to know what to do because, as I said earlier, someone is playing with your sense of reality and what's wrong and what's right. So you may be feeling very confused and ashamed of sharing what you're going through with other people because you're afraid that they're gonna call you crazy too. Or you may be even thinking that your partner or the gaslighter is correct and that you have to make changes and that you have to fix yourself. So you may be going through that whole mess of trying to change things about you without any good outcomes because the gaslighter is going to keep gaslighting you. My recommendation is that through understanding this term, you recognize that what you are experiencing is real. You need to validate yourself and tell yourself that you're not crazy, that maybe your intuition is telling you something or your eyes are telling you something that's real. So don't be afraid to follow your intuition. Next, seek support from a friend or a mental health professional. And finally, if you care about this person, if the gaslighter is someone that you actually love and you want to preserve in your life, it's important that you communicate what's going on. I have found that people who gaslight are most of the time not aware at all that they're doing it. They don't even know what the term means. So educate them, express yourself, and set boundaries. Yet you also have to consider ending this relationship if this person is not willing to take accountability, is not willing to do the work. Because remember, you deserve to be treated with respect and dignity, and allowing someone else to hurt you, it's going to really hurt you. You don't want to end up with PTSD or chronic anxiety and depression and a miserable relationship for the rest of your life. And just in case it wasn't clear, I'm going to say it again. Gaslighting is a harmful form of psychological manipulation that can have serious consequences on both the victim and the gaslighter. It's important to recognize the signs and take steps towards addressing it. Let me know if you have any questions about this topic. Make sure to hit the like button if this video was helpful, and to subscribe to my channel so you can learn more about psychology and therapy, and I'll see you soon in another video.
Okay, so it was asked for me to give the name of the article that I was reading from initially. So let me do that. Let me scroll all the way up to the top so that you guys can have it to whatchamacallit. There we go. Here we go. That's the name of the article. So if you want to screenshot, let me move out the way. All right. And then also the section that was on the second section that we went to, is this going to be on YouTube? Yeah, I'm going to put this on YouTube. This one I'm going to definitely put on YouTube. The part that was on trauma bonding, when you go to it, you're going to highlight this part right here where trauma bonding is. This is clickable. So right here where it says trauma bonding, you click that part and it'll bring you to the other article that was about trauma bonding. So that's how you get to the second part, which is here, that part by itself. But this main article I started with, and then clicked that one, and then went to the second part that was on the trauma bonding by itself. They had one on gaslighting off of here, but when I clicked the gaslighting, it wasn't another article. It was like a video with some guy that I didn't like. So I didn't use that one. Yeah. All right, so let's talk. The gaslighting bit is super important because all of these things are bad for our mental health, period. But gaslighting in particular leads to long-term mental health problems. All right. It leads to long-term mental health problems. And the reason is because it literally alters the way that you view reality from yourself. So you don't believe that reality is real. That's what happens, right? So it leads to depression, anxiety, PTSD, but also simply constantly living in a state where you second guess yourself and what you believe is happening to you. And that actually can last way longer than the relationship. You can leave the relationship and still be suffering the after effects of somebody having gaslit you. Whether that was happening to you as a child, whether it happened in a romantic relationship or in other spaces. It's really, really important. Actually, like, we talk about society and socio-psychological things that are done to women, like the beauty standard and stuff like that. That is like gaslighting on a huge scale, right? So I wanted to make sure to put the importance on the long-term effects of being gaslit over long periods of time. It actually comes from this movie called Gaslight, in case there's anybody that doesn't know where the term comes from. It was this old black and white movie. It was actually initially a play and then became a movie. And the guy was like taking the lamp fluid out of the lamps and convincing his wife that she never put it in. So imagine you putting the lighter fluid into the lamps, and every time you turn around, the lamps are empty. And you're like, I know that I put fluid in there. And he's like, no, you didn't. If you did, there would be fluid in there. But the whole time he was taking it out, literally to cause her to become crazy. And that is what happens, right? Where you're constantly making somebody feel like reality isn't reality to the point that they start questioning everything that they know to be true. And that's why it has long term psychological effects. We have somebody new onto the panel. Hi, P. Cody. Yeah, I have a feeling that this person is up here by accident, but I wasn't sure. So I didn't want to not invite them or not accept their invitation, their request. All right, go ahead, Hey to Halo, and then Bevan for last thoughts.
I was going to say, gaslighting. I feel like it's such it takes a big emotional toll on you because it's like I feel like I'm echoing.
Let me mute myself. Maybe
Can you
you're
hear me
echoing.
properly?
Maybe you're echoing through my mic. Let me mute myself.
Hello, can you hear me better now? Oh, I guess you're on mute. Anyway, with gaslighting, I feel like it takes a toll on your soul because it can literally be for any little thing where they feel like, oh, you're like questioning me, and then they're gaslighting you. And that's what makes you feel like, am I going crazy? And then you second guess things that you saw, even if it is like they cheated on you. And then they'll be like, oh no, that was my friend, or oh, you just don't trust me. And then you're like, well, you start second guessing like your past relationships and everything that you've been told, any advice you've been given. It just goes out the window because then you're questioning everything. And I think it can then seep into other parts of your relationship with your friends, with your family, with, you know, how you are at work. Literally everything it affects, because it's essentially like a ripping apart your confidence in yourself and who you are, who you used to be, what strong kind of like thoughts you had is now gone because this person is like, you know, you're wrong about everything. But yeah, the
Thank
end.
you. Halo, any last thoughts?
Yeah, just really listening to everything that we've talked about and also the video. Yeah, gaslighting is like the easiest form of mental manipulation that could be implemented on somebody. It doesn't take a genius to do it. You literally just have to uh, reverse psychology, basically flip the situation on the person, on the other person enough to get them to question their self, question their logic. You know what I'm saying? Question how they feel, even in the most minuscule of ways. And once you get them to that state of mind, it's a wrap. You know what I'm saying? It's super easy. And I think that's why the men more so like lean on that more than anything in conversations with us, because they know that a lot of us, we're going to question our integrity, we're going to question our logic, we're going to second guess, because we're that's I think that's empathy working against us. Empathy is a good thing, but it works against us too, because we're always like, we're socialized to give reasonable doubt because we're being empathetic towards other people, and they weaponize that shit, pairing it with their mental manipulation, i.e. gaslighting. But yeah, that's all I got to say about that. Like, everything we've touched on today has been very interesting. Um, I really don't know what else to give after that. Like,
Okay.
we can't make it any more clear, like the things that the men are actively trying to do to manipulate us.
Yeah, absolutely. Hi, Bevan. Any closing thoughts? I see she's on coffee cup, so she may not be inside the house.
Okay.
Oh, there you go.
What I have to say is that the effect of gaslighting someone can affect them in the long term. And the person that's literally doing the gaslighting might not realize that it's a long term effect that's going to have on the victim of the gaslighting. And it can affect them that they will need therapy to get over it.
Yep. All right, you guys. I want to thank everybody that hung out all day long. I know it's not a popping, jumping, getting to cuss somebody out, crash out kind of live. But I think it's always good and important for us to have these kind of conversations to kind of like reground us, make sure that we're still, I know it's a lot of information. Some of you guys might have already had it. But it's still good for us to like get back to these spaces, kind of remind us again. And I think sometimes too, when we fall out from this kind of information, our empathy starts to like wiggle away a little bit too. And you can fall back into the why didn't she leave? Why didn't she this? Why didn't she that? Or even yourself, right? I think it's especially because we are a deconstructing space. I think that it's important for us to remember to forgive ourselves for some of the things that we've been through, because now that you know better, you look back at yourself like, why didn't I know better? Why didn't I do better? Why didn't I leave sooner? Why didn't I this? Why didn't I that? Right? So it's important for us to remember the person that we were in the moment, the emotions we were feeling in the moment, and feel forgiveness for ourselves if you were a victim, and forgiveness to people that we love that were victims. That sounds crazy, but it's real. Because you can be angry at someone for not caring for themselves better because you care for them, right? And want to make sure that we're checking back in that we're not doing that either. And also, like I said earlier, and I've said it all throughout the live, that it's also about empathy for women that have gone through it and are going through it now. So I will see y'all in the TikTok streets. Yeah, you guys have a great day. I'm going to put it on YouTube.